What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Finally, GSL has returned for the year 2024. It's been too long. I'm Tasteless. Joined with me is State. How you doing, man?
I'm feeling good. It's been a while since we casted some StarCraft 2, but another year, another GSL, and I cannot wait to get started today.
That's right, and what better way to start this off than with Maru coming into this season. We've got Maru and 3 Zergs. So we were kind of talking about this a little bit before the show began, but for some of our Zerg players, it may be more important to just be better at ZVZ than it is to be good at ZVT right now.
Yeah, especially for Sue coming into this one, trying to return from form after getting back from military service. It's been a struggle for him. And to draw Maru as opponent number 1 to kick off the new year of GSL, not the easiest path forward. So for a player like Sue or like DRG, maybe you just focus on ZVZ, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Maru still kind of the de facto king of GSL. He did have some poor performances last year, but coming into this group today and looking at how he fared in IEM, you got to say this guy is probably the favorite, probably the player that's going to be getting out first.
Yeah, especially coming into Group A today with 3 Zergs against. That's only one matchup that you need to practice right now is Maru. And I think for a lot of players that could be kind of a blessing and a curse because, yes, you only need to practice one matchup, but also you need to have a wider range over the course of those games. Otherwise, you might start getting metagamed. But Maru, he can just do every single style. Of course, he's the best at defensive play, but we've seen him proxy racks. We've seen him go for cheeky all-ins. And I feel like this is really going to play to his advantage.
And frankly, the fact that, in Korea, we've had a lot of good Zergs for a long time. It's been, for the last couple of years, I would say a little bit more Zerg dominant than so in the other races. The fact that he's been able to hang and still perform there is definitely a good sign for him. So we have a small schedule change. Obviously, we're on at the same time, but we're only on once a week now, and I actually really welcome this format change. With GSL being compacted here, I think it's a little bit nicer to just have it once a week. So we get to stretch out this part of the tournament. We give the players more time to prep and try to figure each other out. So when you watch, and I'm just going to point out to the, point the Korea time here. You can use AI or Google or whatever to figure out what time it's going to be for you elsewhere. But we're going to be starting at 6:30 p.m. KST. If you're going to get tickets, you need to get them online.
Yeah, get them online, get them early. You do not want to miss on tickets because you sell out. And I think also on the day of the event, you can only buy them for an hour or so after restart. So just get them early, play it safe every week, Thursday, 6:30 p.m. KST for the next 2 months or so.
Yeah, it should be completely foreigner accessible. If you end up on that website, by the way, because I actually went and finally checked this out for myself, if the website shows up in Korean, you can, depending on your browser, just right-click and hit translate to English. Yeah, I think a lot of people that don't use websites in other languages don't know. You can just have it switched all into English if that's an issue for you. But look, I mean, the first couple weeks of GSL tend to not fill up. So I would get a ticket. I would come down. It's kind of cozy here in the studio. You're going to get a set of nice long best of 3s in the group section. So definitely join us for that.
Yeah, and of course, the GSL prize pool this year will be largely crowdfunded up to $40,000, raised from, I think, $30,000 per season last year. So I know a lot of fans have been showing love both on Africa TV and also through the Patreon. And not only do you get to show love, you get your hands on those juicy replay packs, behind-the-scenes videos, interviews, extra pictures that you can hang on your wall of your favorite player.
We got some goodies for those supporting this. Our format here, it's going to be our standard 4 groups. Then we're going to go into the round of 8, 2 groups there. And then it's going to be a rapid-fire semifinals and finals. So I'm glad we're also keeping the group stage there for the part of the show after this one to keep it a little bit interesting. And so here's our lineup for the round of 16. Just to be clear here, SHIN is Ragnarok. In case you thought we had somebody completely brand new. I know some of these players we see a lot more than others, but SHIN recently changed his name to Ragnarok. SHIN is his family name.
Yeah, Shin Bomb. So now just going by his family name. And looking at the groups here, I feel like Group A on paper, one of the stronger ones. You got Maru, you got SHIN, you got DRG. It's a competitive one, but across the board, very intense.
1등의 선수신데 시드 자격 획득에 대한 소감 그리고 시청자분들께 인사 한마디 부탁드리겠습니다.
소감이요? 똑같을 것 같은데. 오고 싶은 사람 있나요?
있겠냐고요.
나 저그 뽑을 것 같습니다.
와 동물처럼 반응한다 이거. 누가 반응을 이렇게 빨리 해?
뭐 뽑으면은 뭐 A조 하면 좋죠. A조 나쁘지 않죠. 빨리 하니까.
조성 선수 그러면 지목 해주십시오.
윤수 형 가겠습니다.
저 트로피 때문에 그런 것 같아요. 열받아서.
아 맞아요. 제 마음이 아프거든요 지금.
예상은 했는데 멤버들 보니까 약간 기대했는데 막상 못 피니까 좀 슬프긴 하네요.
네, 다음은 이제 어윤수 선수 차례입니다.
뽑고 싶은 사람을 정해놓고 오긴 했는데 그 사람들이 남아있어서 아주 좋고요. 네, 그 사람들의 좀 생각을 듣고 싶네요. 저그 2명이랑 토스 1명, 테란 1명.
아 뽑아주신다고요?
네, 저그
아
네.
좋죠. 뽑으면 좋을 것 같아요.
근데 혹시 뽑으면은 누구 뽑을 거니?
아 저는 같은 저그.
오, 아주 마음에 들어요.
저그 뽑을 의향 있는데.
아 준호는 없어요. 제가
준호는 뒤져 가야지.
근데 혹시 재선이도 모르니까 재선이한테 한번 물어볼게요.
저는 A조 가기 싫어서 저 뽑으면 준호 형 뽑을게요.
협박을 해?
협박을 해?
현우는 어떻게 생각하는지?
사실 A조는 가기 싫어가지고 형 원하는 대로는 안 뽑을게요. 아 죄송해요. 할만하다.
선택지가 없는 것 같은데요? 이범이 뽑을게요.
제가 바로 뽑는 거죠? 아 저 수용하겠습니다.
이 조 구성에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시는지?
뭐 누가 와도 상관없습니다.
뭐 원하던 저는 아니긴 한데 근데 뭐 이 판국에 꿀자가 어디 있겠습니까? 그냥 해야죠.
And we're back. So let's get into this group. Look, we talked about it a little bit at the opening of the show, but Maru, I gotta say, I think the obvious pick, I think with the Zergs, it's a little bit of a toss-up. And then look at the hand signal for Sue here. What is going on? I feel like we've used all the possible hand signals.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one before. I don't know exactly
I've never
what it
seen that one.
means.
All squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares.
Yeah, not quite sure what he's trying to convey. But
Wait, production told me, what is it? It's Sony's signature?
Sony's signature? That means nothing to me.
Who's Sony?
Somebody else's winning ceremony, but I don't know. Apparently we are out of touch.
We're out of touch right now. Oh, it's a
he's
Korean football player.
Of course
Well,
we
how
don't
much
know
of a
that.
jock do I have to be to do this show, production?
The two
I
Americans.
have no idea. What? There's no computers in football. I don't know.
The two Americans
All right.
aren't going to know about soccer. Oh my goodness.
All right.
But
Well, now we know. Okay, so that's borrowed from an athlete out here. Got it.
yeah, I was wondering about that in the pre-show.
Yeah, we were
doing
trying
the,
to figure that out. Well, now we know.
Yeah.
This is good to know. So, going into this, look, Maru, the clear favorite. Sue has been searching for years for the place in GSL that he had before. For a while, it was almost like his tournament for Sue. He was just getting to so many finals. It was kind of becoming like a story of whether or not he would make it. And, we'll see if he ever can get back to that point in time. But, man, Maru has just been so incredibly consistent. So late in the history, I guess all the way to the present then. But, that's not a great way to phrase it. He's been great for years and years and years. He's been on top of his game. I think he's clearly the favorite here. Maybe we have an upset. We've had upsets with Maru before. But right now, it seems like this should be one-sided.
Yeah, even last season, Maru opened up against Scarlet and was the first player knocked out of that GSL group after winning 2 GSL Code S's in a row. So there certainly is room for an upset here. But what we saw from Maru in IEM looks very impressive. Right now, I feel like if your name isn't Serral and you're a Zerg trying to go up against Maru, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, Sewerl doesn't get close. So we're going to hop into this. We've got some great new maps we're going to be going into for this season. It is so good to be back, by the way, guys. We missed you. I know we started a little bit later in the year here than we have in the past. So let's get into this. This is going to be game 1 in the round of 16, christening this first season of 2024 with Maru versus Sue in Group A. Let's get into this. Are we not doing player intros?
Yeah, I was waiting for
it. I guess. Okay. Guys, Sue's in the top left, Maru's in the bottom right.
For a second,
All right.
I was like, wait. Did it already happen and I just didn't notice?
I guess when we rehearsed, it never happened, but I just I'm so used to that part coming. We should have just not talked until something happened.
Just wait until a barracks gets thrown down.
I'm not built by the word here. So we've got, well, of course we have this. So we have a proxy racks. Keep in mind that, is the Overlord going to see it? No, it makes a little UE there. So when you make your barracks and depot out there at the entrance, it can look initially like it might be a fast expand build, but this is going to be a pretty aggro rush. Remember that, there is a kind of advantage in that for Maru in that he has one matchup to play, but there's also the fundamental problem that every game he plays exposes his playstyle more and more. Because he's Maru, he has such a great range of play. I guess it's to be expected that he would do a couple of proxy racks. I don't think this is going to be the only one we're going to have today. But let's see how Sue handles this.
Yeah, Maru opening with 2 Barracks Reaper like this should be able to exert a good amount of pressure onto Sue, but of course this isn't too much of a commitment behind this. Maru will be expanding as Sue's hatchery, the natural, just about finished up. And Sue, for better or for worse, I mean, he has no idea that this is happening on the map right now, so he's only making 4 lings. Queen's in production, of course, live audience here.
Yeah, so good to have you guys down here.
A lot of cheers for the Zergs in the group today, and they're going to need it going up against Maru as the first Reaper enters the main base just as the first 2 lings pop. No Queen yet.
Yeah, and it's going to be more and more Reapers coming out here. I was wondering if this could be any kind of like marine pressure. I guess when you see the position of the barracks and the factors of gas, it's far away enough it wouldn't be coming. And so this is going to be a bit of a juggling act here for Maru to see how much damage he can do. With the expansion behind it, we know it's not any kind of crazy commitment. But he's going to keep the pressure on here. And remember, with a lot of these Reaper builds, the problem pops up when the Zerg really wants to take a third base but can't.
Yeah, because you can levy a lot of pressure on that third hatchery with the Reapers. And we only have a handful on the map right now, but so far, Maru's done a good job of both parrying the 2 lings coming across map from Sue, although he did force a little bit of idle time, and also really bruising the lings that Sue had there in the main base. So now with these Reapers, up until ling speed is done, Maru will have map control. And we'll see exactly how he decides to use it. Of course, with grenades can deny these creep tumors. Oh, doesn't even need the nades on that one.
Insult to injury there. Leaving a crater where that creep tumor was. He's going to keep roaming. He actually did this with probably the bare minimum number of Reapers. There's a little bit of brilliance with this. In my mind, I was kind of imagining there would be more and more Reapers made, but to cut it right off at 4, go back and just throw down macro everything, factory, barracks, I think another command center is what I saw on the ramp.
That poor SCV was on the wrong side of the wall there. As ling speed is done, so Sue going to try and get some damage done over here, but the Reaper's actually going to catch him. Surprised Maru didn't get more ling kills there. I was surely thinking that a handful were going to go down, but at the end of it, only 1 ling and an additional gas and a Roach Warren in production here for Sue.
So I think Maru's in a really healthy spot. I think he's probably, tempo-wise, probably a little bit ahead here in development. I do think Sue didn't overreact to this either. We've got Stim just now starting, and we're probably going to have this third command center landed pretty quickly. There's not a lot of threats on the board here for Sue. He does have some roaches coming out, though. Let's see how many more he makes.
I think he's going to be committing pretty heavily into this. 3 more Overlords in production, so the roach train just going to keep on chewing. As Hellions and Reapers are out on the map, Maru yet does not know that this is in the cards. And with a 3 command center get up, this is about as aggressive, or not as aggressive, as macro-oriented as it gets here for Terran. There isn't a siege tank in play. There is a Liberator in production right now, but the army that Maru has standing, it's a little bit flimsy against aggression like this, and now the roaches are coming across the map. Maru actually chasing down those lings in the corner, so he has no idea this is coming to his base.
We've got some drones hatching too. He's continuing to make that. The lings don't get the connections they need. They don't get the kills they want. But, you know, there's enough roaches, and I think there's Ravagers coming here as well, that you got to be careful. The Liberator makes it a little bit more complicated, but, you know, 3 Ravagers can make quick work of any Liberator that's sieged up. So I don't know how deep he can get in here with his damage. Again, it's not like an all-in or anything dramatic like that. It's just going to be a little bit of pressure over here at the front. The wall-in should be pretty safe, pretty easy to control. I don't know if he can repair that barracks, but I guess with the sandwich move coming in here, it's not going to matter either way. I was wondering if maybe he could deny the a stim that was upgrading over on the tech lab or slow it down.
And just not enough DPS. And actually, Maru is playing this very well. Now, for some reason, I was thinking Sue might be a little bit more committed here, but instead just running behind it. 66 drones to 41 SCVs right now. So, although this army doesn't seem like it's getting too much done here in the front of the base, it's getting some idle time on that starport, on that barracks. It's levying a lot of pressure here onto Maru, and behind it, Sue is very healthily getting up to a 3-base economy. He's almost at full saturation right now, throwing down double evolution chamber. I really like this pressure we're seeing out of him.
Yeah, he gets a little bit done. And makes Maru respect the roach pressure, but there's so many drones here. There's actually 67 workers, so I think Sue, from the start of this game to now, has done a really good job of handling this balancing act and getting into the position he wants to be. We don't have that 3rd command center landed. A lot of these TVZs do come down to 4th base pressure from the Terran. Can it work, or will we go into a longer game? But I don't think we have any kind of real threats being made here. He's just going to try to kite these lings as best he can. Bit of an overextension there from Sue. He loses a couple. I think we're going to have a drop in the main now. But I don't see a push coming from Terran anytime soon.
No, it's just going to be this harassment coming off the back of the 3 command centers as the Marines drop here in the main base. They do not yet have combat shields, but they don't really need them to get a lot of damage done. Ton of lings go down as well as a Ravager, as that Liberator does get shoot away from the natural expansion, now working its way over to the 3rd base, trying to find more damage. And Sue, he is taking a little bit of hurt, but overall, I mean, he's still sitting at 65 drones. He's getting his 4th base up. The double evolution chamber is pumping. I'm still liking his position quite a lot here. 12 more drones in production, Tasteless.
Yeah, he is looking great. We're probably going to have that 5th base in a second. Well, I mean, look, Sue, I think, has done a really great job. I thought this was going to be a little bit tougher for him to get through. I think Maru made a lot of smart choices, but I think Sue, the way he handled the roach pressure and droned heavily behind it, you know, Maru doesn't have the number of Liberators or tanks to really give him a foothold to try to push with. And there's enough drones, enough macro everything that I don't think there's any way that you can just win this with infantry alone. So we don't see any real commitment yet here from Maru. We're still basically in the build-up to whatever that committed push is going to be.
Yeah, and Sue thus far has just been able to hold off these attacks with nothing but Roach, Ravager, Ling. He hasn't been investing a lot of that gas into Baneling, so he's been able to get his infestation pit up. That Baneling nest is just now done, so I'm sure Baneling's speed will be in production shortly, and sure enough, Sue fires that up, now taking a 5th base. I feel like Sue is playing some of the best StarCraft we've seen from him in a while now, and I know we're only about halfway through Game 1 here of Group A, but I'm starting to get a little bit nostalgic for Sue of yesteryear in his prime when he could hang with the best of them, because right here against Maru, he's doing a pretty good job here in the mid-game.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking really good. It's impressive. There's Maru just still sitting on 3 bases. We're getting the second, I think it's the second factory. I might have missed it. It might have been okay, second factory just finishing there. Tanks came into play late. That's not right or wrong, but that's the kind of game he decided to play. This time around, we've got additional command centers up here, so he's going to start to try to reach out and get a few more spots. At this point in time, Sue is nearly maxed out. He's at 174 supply. We've got a lot of roaches and Ravagers. We're getting to the point where lings are going to be made, and then the rest of the gas is going to be used to fill up with banelings. So This is going to be tough here if Maru's going to push out. And it's also possible when Zerg gets this high in supply, it really becomes their turn to supply dump onto the Terran.
Right, I would not be surprised if Su started investing resources in supply dumping exactly on that 4th base, because his standing army still has 14 Roaches and 5 Ravagers, and it's not the most supply-efficient composition to be running here as a Zerg who's just now reaching Hive Tech. You want to be on something a little bit more efficient than that, but Maru coming in with a 2-prong. Su actually caught out of position, so this 3rd base going to be taking a little bit of damage. A couple of drones going down, Ling's now flooding in. 7 drones in total will get killed before Maru evacuates out of that location. And now Su is maxed. 100 Lings in total. Maru just now securing his 4th base. And with the first Viper entering the fray and 2-2 about to be finished here for the Zerg, you gotta think that pressure is going to start coming onto the Terran side of the map now.
Yeah, I would agree. And you can see Maru just going to expand right at the bottom of the map there near 6 o'clock. He's trying to, not lean into his position for too long. We do know that Maru has, I think out of all the Terrans we've ever seen, probably been the very best at doing exhaust play, which is where you just take your half of the map, Zerg takes their half of the map faster than you, because Zerg organically grows faster than Terran. And then, what happens is that the Terran mines out later than the Zerg. The Zerg kind of is forced to try to kill the Terran's last base, and you win. It's a pretty stamina-oriented game, but he's made it work, and it does feel a little bit like we're already kind of going into that. I mean, he's letting Su continue to grow. He's basically waited for Su to attack in with the Roach Ravager, and it never really happened. So he's building up a lot of minerals and gas. You can see that at the bottom of the screen, but he needs to switch into some kind of tech that can do anything. Roach Ravager is kind of funny because it's strong early, but as you get later in the game, the units themselves cost too much supply. They're not really that useful, so you can't really do much with it.
Yeah, it doesn't scale very well into the late game, especially against a Terran is good at holding on against attacks as Maru, but I feel like the reason that attack never came to fruition is because Maru has been so active on the map with these handful of dropships that Su just hasn't felt comfortable enough to actually push across and get some pressure done on the 4th base, because Maru, he's now getting up to 5 bases, and a couple of minutes ago when Su, it felt like he had an opportunity to attack, and actually hold that thought now as he is going to try and break this 5th base before the planetary gets up. Baneling's now rolling in. Not the best connections thus far, but it's actually a good opening salvo as that planetary is taking a ton of damage. Liberator, as of yet unanswered, finally does get taken down, and although Su was able to break down the front, I don't think that was exactly the cost-efficient trade he was going for. The base, it's still standing, and only a couple of key units there for Maru got taken out.
Yeah, nice play back there. Supply's fairly even. I guess we're going to have these medevacs over this area at the top left forever. No, they're actually going to try to come in here now. Definitely a fumble there. I don't think this was going to last too much longer.
Yeah, for a moment, I thought the Sport Brawler was going to get both of them.
Yeah.
So eventually that will get cleaned up. But going back to the point I was making before, it feels like Maru did a good enough job of buying time to get more siege tanks out, to get a handful of Widow Mines. And now he is much more entrenched in his position, especially with these auxiliary command centers, kind of creating choke points on the map as you see him setting up here at the 5th base, this most forward base here for Maru. And that's going to be a really good bastion of defense here. Su's going to have to choose what his target is going to be. Is it going to be the triangle third that's mostly mined out at this point? Is he going to try and hammer down the 5th base that is the most entrenched? Some decisions are going to have to come down the pipeline here for Su very quickly, because of all the Terran players in the world, the one you want to go into an exhaust late game the least is Maru. And I feel like if Su cannot break him soon, the timer is going to suddenly turn onto the Zerg side, where you really have to find a way to close the game out, because
Maru's never really fully engaged. I mean, he basically, I think Su did a really good job of getting into a position where he couldn't be pushed, and Maru just said, fine, I am not going to push you at all. I'm going to let the clock run. And now I think we're seeing attacks come in. Yeah, we're going to see it right now, but this is pretty late. He's going to move in over here. The Banes are going to split through. They're trying to go up to where these Ghosts are. The Ghosts go in Cloak, just out of range of the Overseers.
Yeah, that was a lot of Banelings used right there just on one siege tank, so the splash damage mostly mitigated, and these bio units here from Maru are largely expendable. The medevacs are still staying alive. It was only a handful of Marines and Marauders that got taken out, and the critical units for Terran, the Ghost, the siege tanks, and the Widow Mines there defensively, not too many of them were traded. So as far as Maru's looking, that's a pretty happy trade, because a couple more minutes mining on 5 bases, eventually he should be able to get closer and closer to a max. And Su maybe only has a couple more big attacks like that in the cards before his bank is going to be depleted.
I think you're right. I mean, this is kind of a bummer. It was such a good early game, but then you saw Su kind of sit back. It's hard. There's not a whole lot that he could have done. If you want to gauge how the Zerg's doing as the game gets longer and longer, watch how many Banelings connect with important targets. So not just like a Baneling with one Marine, but a bunch of Marines. Banelings onto SCVs especially. That's when the Zerg's getting value. The Baneling's the best unit, but if it's shot from the distance, it's not a unit that's trading out. It's just being killed off. It's being wasted. And we saw a lot of that back there in that attack.
Yeah, but this army that Su is amassing now does feel a little bit more potent than the last one he attacked with. The siege tank count, it is down to 2. Only 2 Liberators as well, and that's a lot of Ultras Tasteless coming in here into this choke point. We'll see if he gets the Baneling connections that he needs this time, rolling up the ramp, and oh, the snipes coming through! Those Ultras largely getting evaporated by the snipes, and yes, the base is going to get cleaned up, but at what cost? That was an incredibly expensive army there for Su, and it's again the same story.
I think there's a hatch being taken to the right of this. Yes, there is. So, well, that's not going to last, obviously. But look at the mini-map, everybody. I mean, this is the dilemma that's presenting himself. If you cut this map diagonally just a little bit from below the center to the upper, to the right, a little bit up, that's all the Zerg's bases that they have, if you look at the top half of that. So Terran has not taken the bottom left. Terran has not taken the 3 o'clock spot either. And those are basically bases Zerg probably can't have.
Yeah, Maru right now just a little bit behind in army supplies from Su, but the fact that it's taking him so long to get closer and closer to max does have me a little bit concerned how these mules are going to do a good job of alleviating that income disparity for now, as we'll watch and see as Maru's income spikes from, I think, 1,700 a minute to almost 3K. And here comes the next round of attacks from Su. Widowmines, pretty decent opening connections right there as the Ghosts are going to go on the high ground. Baneling's going to come in. There isn't too much bio left to be found. If the Ghosts get connected with the Banelings, that could be disastrous here for Maru, but the split is immaculate. Only 1 or 2 Ghosts get taken out. Ultra's now coming into the natural expansion, though. The Ghosts are largely the only standing army here for Maru.
Now Su's doing it. He broke a really key point. That base, it's almost been mined up, but it's been wasted. The Lings are still tearing this down. The defense was flimsier than we thought, but Su has to really take this position by the throat and eke out as much damage as possible, continuing on from here. A scrappy Maru that stays back and stays alive could do very well. The Infestor goes right by the Ghost, so he sees what's happening.
Oh, if we have an Unburrow Fungal right here or the next wave, that could be huge. I mean, that could be game deciding. Think of how close these last couple of attacks were to the Banelings connecting with the Ghost, but never quite getting the critical hit they needed. Fungal could be exactly what Su needs.
Maru's trying to rebuild.
Su's bank, by the way, almost completely exhausted. He is slowly running out of steam.
I got to say, I'm blown away at how well Su did back there. But this next attack is so important.
Oh, it's so many Widowmines tasteless.
Yeah.
Against 100+ Lings.
Yeah, he can use a lot of Lings to drag them through those mines. We see the Banelings are going to come down here now. The liftoff, and I think a smart move here by Su, he pulls away. He does not want to overextend and go through that gauntlet of Widow Mines and tank shots and ghost shots and everything else.
I think almost 50 Lings got taken out by those Widow Mine shots when Su ventured forward, and now he's going to try and attack up this ramp, but there's very little support here. For the Ultras, they just get sniped down.
So that overextension is really costly, and now I think Maru might be okay. It's still a little bit up in the air, but a lot of times when Zerg win these games, they bank up enough resources and larva that when they hit, they get to reset their max out with the right unit composition to then hit again right after that. It's like a 1-2 punch. And I don't think he has that ability to do that anymore. But, I mean, look, there's not that many minerals and gas coming here from Maru either. A lot of Lings by themselves might be able to do the job.
Yeah, those are 3-3 cracklings, so a lot of damage potential right here. And they're going to clean up a lot of mules and a ton of workers, too. Oh, no, actually going to break back. I wouldn't have minded it too much if Su just actually committed, but he doesn't have the full picture that we have. He doesn't know that that base mining minerals is most of Maru's mineral economy. He's only on 49 SCVs right now, and Su, given the fact that his own bank is now dismally low, is going to have to be very smart about the next engagement he takes. And here goes off creep, trying to connect again, but the snipes, I mean, those Marauders are basically a human shield a wall of the Ultras, Lings, and Banes cannot get past, and then the Ghost from the rear gets so much damage done.
I've never seen Maru like this up against the ropes against somebody like Su, right? This is not the game I thought we were going to have here. Another attack in, Banes and an Ultra coming forward.
Yeah, that was a nice fungal there from Su. Wasn't able to get as many Ghosts as he wanted from that high ground. That reduction in range really hurting. That is a good fungal, but with no pairing from the Banelings, not quite the damage that he needs. And oh man, my heart breaks a little bit for Su here. He's been playing such a fantastic game. Maru really came close to getting broken from those countless attacks on the triangle third, but the Ghost count just constantly remained high, and he traded out units that weren't too essential, and now we have a Maru who finally is eclipsing Su in army supply.
Yeah, I mean, Maru just keeps kind of bouncing back. Did you ever see Ninja Scroll? Final scene where the guy gets his face smashed in and then his face reforms. Never mind. But this is what's happening. This is what keeps happening to Maru. Where like he's just getting beaten up enough, but it doesn't matter. He can float another CC out. He can kind of play this Giga Turtle style where he's taking damage. It's nothing but scars on the Terran side, but he's still living. And you know, we're mostly looking at the Terran side of the map, but it's important to remember just all the resources that are draining. Oh, okay, not as good as I thought it was going to be. All the resources draining for the Zerg.
I mean, oh my goodness, that was an insane shot. That Widowmine's shot took down so much supply. GG gets called.
Great game. Look, I mean, that was a lot more exciting and a lot crazier than I thought. It looked like for a few minutes that Su was just going to actually kill him in a way that Maru almost never dies. They were both about maxed out, and he just had this connect with the Banelings and everything else. Got enough Ghosts, got enough of every, I guess circumvented enough of the Widowmine shots that he was able to almost do it. But this is something that Maru, I think, is really the best at in the whole world, is this camping, turtling, command center lifting, retreating style that basically forces the Zerg into a position where they are, oddly enough, the bad race in the really, really late game, basically in the end game, as resources deplenish.
And we saw Su exhaust his bank trying to thwart Maru from taking another expansion, and just barely wasn't able to do it. But this is the stronger Su that we're seeing here in this season, and I feel like a lot of fans watching that game number one are going to be cheering even harder for it, because that game one showed a lot of potential.
All right, Site Delta for map number 2 here. Let's see if we've got a different early game, because I think if it goes to the same end game, Maru's going to win it. I'm loving the graphics we've got for this season. It's going to be Maru in the top left and Su in the bottom right.
And we've finally been freed from the chains that bound us.
That's right.
For what feels like a year and a half.
Whatever those free graphic chains, the game, whatever program they used to make the graphics here for the last year's GSL. We're back. We've freshened it up. Barracks going to go down on the low ground over here. I don't see an SCV on the map to make a second barracks. To-do list, you come to GSL, check!
The plane ticket too, yeah.
Yeah, the proof.
That's how you do it. And it seems like it will be a different opening here for Maru, but just going back to game number one, the early game that Su played was so impressive.
Yeah.
Where he came across the map with a handful of roaches, and this is pressure that we've seen a lot of Zerg players attempt, especially against Terrans that like to go for the low ground expansion ball-in, such as Maru, such as Bjorn, or a lot of these other Korean Terrans. And behind it, Su was able to drone so aggressively. I think at one stage he had something like 50% more workers than Maru while he was still attacking at the natural. And you might look at the attack and be like, okay, well, cost efficiency-wise, this really isn't getting too much done, but it's giving Su scouting information. He knows exactly what Maru's playing with, because Maru has to show all of his cards to deflect the small number of roaches and ravagers moving across the map. And Su behind that, as I said, he drones heavily. He moves into a roach lean composition and stays on that for a long time, which is cheaper than going into Banes quite early, and he made it work. You know, he was able to parry these drop ships that came through. I think the highest damage drop got maybe 7 drone kills at the third base there of Su.
Yeah, he was basically immune to all harass. It was pretty cool. You know, Su mustered an army that was strong enough. There was no way that Maru could push in, but of course Maru just didn't push in. He's really good at knowing when he doesn't need to commit at all. I also think that map, and we say this about a lot of maps, but a lot of maps do end up like this. That map is good for Terran to turtle on.
Right, especially in an exhaust late game, because it's so hard for Zerg to get the middle of the map base to truly make it a split map situation.
And Terran can save the bottom left base, and realistically, you're never going to have a Zerg take that. So you kind of have this freebie base. You don't even have to, like on some maps, you have to like hold the entire, from the bottom right to the bottom left to win the game. In that game, you didn't even need to do that. Some Lings come in here.
Yeah, that's Flighty Poe.
Yeah. Turns out to not be as consequential as I thought it might have been. 2 Hellions are going to be coming out in a second here. This is an undisturbed Su that's going to be developing at a normal pace. He'll have to be ready for the Hellions and the harass that's going to come with them.
A Starport coming in as well. I'm wondering if Maru is going to throw down 2 Cyclones as he is often wont to do, and indeed he will. Maru is playing this a lot at IAM, just 2 Hellions and 2 Cyclones. Very safe opener, gives you presence on the map, allows you to slow down the creep spread of the Zerg, and really not very expensive in terms of an opening. The fact that you can reactor out these Cyclones now just gives so much more versatility as those 2 Lings are back. They're actually going to get the full scout off into the main base, and I have to say, Tasteless, I think this is actually quite consequential because Su is not seeing a 3rd command center, and
and the 2 gases here as well. He scouted the 2 gases in the bottom. No, maybe he didn't actually see that, but it doesn't matter. The 2 gases there alone is enough.
Yeah, and Maru, generally speaking, at this stage in the game, he already has that 3rd command center going down more often than not. He's a very greedy Terran player because he is so confident in the mid game or in the late game, excuse me. And so Su now is going to know that Maru has his sights on getting a little bit more damage done here in the early game.
This looks like a Gumiho game right now.
Yeah, it does a bit.
Very odd. By the way, Stim behind this. So this, like, optic-wise, looks like a mech build, but it is going to be bio behind it. Yeah, this is a really cool play.
Yeah, I like this a lot, but Su playing this smart, just trying to micro back with the Queens.
Honestly, this is like some pretty crazy kiting. You can't really get too close to this with Lings because of the Hellions.
Oh yeah, I think Maru versus...
good interception.
One Hellion gets caught there on the back. These Queens very low on HP. Actually, a lot of them don't have energy for transfuse, so one Queen, in fact, will go down, but there are enough Lings to kill at least one of those Cyclones and a handful more Hellions, so this will get thwarted, and Su has averted the crisis that befell Dark at IAM when Maru did a relatively similar opening and was able to kill, I think, 5 or 6 Queens there at IAM. But oh, the Liberator, the main base, a nice added touch. That's some lost mining time. That's 3 more drones down. But at the end of the day, I feel like Su is not too unhappy with this. He only lost a couple of Queens, only a handful of drones. And Maru, that 3rd command center, it's going to be very late relative to when he would usually get it.
Oh my god, it got away. Okay.
3 HP.
I kind of written that Liberator off. So that 3rd CC is done. It is later, like you said, State. And now comes the bio play. It is interesting. You know, we've had some over the past couple years. You know, I guess over all of StarCraft 2, we've seen this off and on. But plays where people go into bio and then go into mech later. But we are having mech into bio, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, the Cyclones are just they're so good now. They're so versatile. They're so good defensively. They're good offensively. They're just kind of your bread and butter unit in the early game.
They're just all around good units. And so we may have a situation where I don't think that Maru can actually push in that well. I think he has maybe a little bit of a better shot than game 1, but Terran's going to get that 3rd base up. I don't think Zerg has any ability to come out here and fight. Was that... Medevac, what was that full of? I actually didn't see.
I'm not sure exactly. I think it's Widow Mines. It's a Widow Mine drop. I saw the Medevac. I just assumed it was going to be 8 Marines.
Yeah.
Good catch there, Tasteless.
I saw the 4 dots. I was like, oh, wait a minute. So he's going to do this Widow Mine drop. Now, he needs this to actually connect, and, you know, it's really lackluster. And he's going to lose the Medevac if he's not controlling this right. He loses that, too. So this is getting better and better here for Maru. Obviously, a Queen kill is nice, but you lose the Medevac and the Widow Mines. That's a lot. And with the kind of composition that Maru is going for, you know, Widow Mines with infantry would have been really nice to have as a combo to push out.
Yeah, that was an expensive loss there from Maru.
I wonder what prompted that too. I mean, I guess sometimes you just want to try to throw a drop out no matter what, but
Yeah, it does seem like a curious decision, especially since the Liberator already knows there's going to be a Spore Crawler sitting there in the natural expansion, so of course Su's going to have that extra half second to...
And Su's not Protoss too? I mean, the whole...
Yeah, what's going on?
What's going on here?
All right, well, Maru now pushing forward onto the creep is going to be able to take down the first couple of tumors. And with 1-1 about to be done, he will have an upgrade advantage for about half a minute here against these Lings. And with no Baneling speed, he could get some good trades. This is going to come drop down on the high ground and clear up even more creep, I think. Liberator coming in for seconds, but just barely in range of that Spore. And Su's defense, just in particular, has been so solid both in Game 1 and Game 2. He truly does look revitalized here this season. I mean, even if he loses this game against Maru, considering that Su is coming into this group, I'm sure his primary focus is on ZVZ because that's going to be his path forward to advancing to the next round of GSL.
He looks like he's in great shape in general.
Yeah,
he's playing this well here. So we've got a push coming down here. Now just imagine those Widow Mines, the 4 that were lost were here with this instead. Oh my god, he got disjointed from it. So the Widow Mines can't even really be utilized. Maru with pretty good control snipes enough of the Banes. A big counterattack comes in here with the Lings. Over at the third, Maru not reacting that fast.
That handful of SCVs already getting taken down as Maru falling apart a little bit micro-wise in the past couple of seconds there. There's a good chunk of bio and a handful of SCVs to get taken down, and Su now powering up onto Hydra Ling Bane. I feel like it's going to be a much more potent mid-game army composition than what we saw from Su last game with mostly Roach, Ravager, Ling.
Yeah, Maru has not found a foothold really to continue to lash out. It looks like he's going to try to come over here. I don't think there's enough. He does pick up, he gets back out.
Widow Mine even only taking down 1 Ling, so these trades not too bad here for Su, but I mean, to give Maru credit, he's macroing really well behind this. Su right now only sitting at 80 drones. He's just now taking that 5th expansion. He hasn't been able to find too much economic damage. And oh, I love Maru unburring the Widow Mine just so he doesn't slash damage down his SCVs. I was wondering if he would friendly fire down a couple of them, but Maru too good for that.
Another attack comes in over here. And again, Su just has enough. Maru's probably going to pick up at the very last second. Decent amount of Banelings do connect. And Su's growing. He's getting bigger. We've got a macro hatch there in the main. Upgrades coming along as well. There is the 4th base planted up at 12 o'clock. I think the SCVs are just being sent over there. But, you know, again, it's Su with a really solid mid-game.
Maru now taking the 12 o'clock expansion. Will soon be on 4 bases. And as long as Maru can engage off creep, he doesn't have too much to worry about here against Su's army. As Su once again going to be chasing, but not able to get the connections here without the speed. And yes, he is forcing a lot of stims. Those medevacs are very low on energy, but just doesn't quite have what it takes to bring down this army off of creep just yet. So Su would love to get a little bit more creep spread here in the center of the map, as Maru now going to be splitting up his forces. He knows that Su's going to be hungry for a 4th base there on the right side. Hive now coming in for the Zerg. So you're going to see if we can catch a couple of units here, but Hydra's just a little bit too slow, and a lot of this comes back to the pressure that Maru was able to get done in the early game. Su still hasn't recovered the creep spread in the center of the map since that first push out with 1-1.
So we got a drop that's going to come in over here just at 3 o'clock. We have another push that's coming down here in the bottom. He's trying to figure out where he can find the weaker position and force Su to really defend and juggle both spots. He comes in here once more. He's going to get some drone kills. He's going to force those Lings and Banelings to come right back and pick up. And it's actually going to be this push all the way from the bottom. I didn't think we were going to see him move all the way through here, but he's going to go for it. Meanwhile, we've got enough Banes. Is he just going to go right on top of the command center? I guess he could just use the Hydras. We don't even need to use the Banes at all. So he's going to wipe the 4th base out. This is a great game here from Su.
He's going to take the 4th base out, but caught off creep here with these Hydras. It's going to be really expensive.
So bad off creep. It's crazy.
I mean, he actually not trading too badly here. It was less bio than I was expecting. I was I was waiting for another handful of Marines to come in. And
Yeah, same.
Su actually getting a surround there on that siege tank as well. Might be able to take it down with the Zerglings, and this attack has a little bit of promise right now. Some critical units going down.
But again, Su needs to be careful not to overextend. The splitting has been pretty good. The Bane's not quite able to connect. More Link's going to spill forward, and that's going to be it. GG. Su actually does it.
That
in
was
the mid-game,
explosive.
in a period where Maru never really dies, by the way. That was really well done.
Yeah, what just happened there? That was kind of crazy. I mean, I saw the Lings had the surround there on the siege tank, and a lot of the supply depots were down, and Maru overextended a little bit on the top side with the bio, but that timing attack, Maru just did not have the defensive setup that I kind of expected him to.
I'm in the same spot as you. I was almost in disbelief as the GG came up. I thought, does he not have more back here?
Yeah, I was expecting, because it's Maru, there's to be one or two more siege tanks staggered all the way going to the
like
natural
pan
expansion.
out and be above the third base on the high ground. We'd be like, no, he's fine, but clearly not. And this is going to bring us into map number 3 on Oceanborn.
Wow, let's go Su.
This is very surprising. I was telling State before the show started, I thought this was going to be a very short match, a really quick 2-0. So, I mean, look, dude, Su might just win this. That could happen. I think Maru needs to have a much more stable mid-game, a much safer, maybe earlier 3rd CC or 4th CC, maybe a proxy, maybe some kind of control play. Let's find out.
All right, game 3 on Oceanborn. Maru down in the bottom right, Su up in the top left, tied 1-1. I feel like I have whiplash from that last game. It was like Su just walked in and snapped his neck.
Oh, it was very interesting to see Maru just get dismantled. Like, I'm so not, specifically with him, I'm so not used to seeing any success rate of attacks with Ling Bane in those positions. So that's very cool. That's very fun to see. It's nice that everybody's continuing to improve here.
Yeah, I mean, Su, this is some of the best StarCraft we've seen from him since he's returned from military service, beyond a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a tough road for a guy that was basically a shoo-in to get 2nd place in every tournament that he entered for.
Yeah, he was a top 2 minimum.
For a number of years, and then he came back, and yes, he's qualified for, it feels like, almost every single Code S since then, but he's the kind of guy that you expect to go out first in the group in the round of 16.
Maru's going for what I call the Beyond build. So this is a wall in at your entrance, and then it depends on how, what kind of game you want to play, but you make Reapers. But how many, that can vary. So, Beyond, I think, proved that you could both, well, let me rephrase this. What Beyond proved with this build is that it is more ambiguous than it looks, and the fact that there's a wall in here, you can back out anytime, make a command center, and you're safe from a counterattack. So it's an overall cool opening. Also, when you get enough Reapers coming out, you can start to put pressure onto the 3rd hatchery. You can deny the 3rd hatchery. The Reapers don't do a lot of damage to buildings, but the bombs do over time. The bombs can also push the queen back if there's no creep. So we've seen some moments like that here as well. I think if Maru's going to have a stronger game, it might be more about limiting movement. Oh, the drone's going to hide. Does he see it? I feel like at this point in time, pros should really just be checking for the hidden drone. I've seen this happen too many times.
Oh, that's great there for Su, if he can get that hatchery down, especially considering Maru threw down that command center very quickly, so the Reaper count is going to be growing too fast, but as you said, Tasteless, the Reapers, they can do a lot of damage, and even if they can't get the cancel here, which I think they should be able to, if they can't get the cancel,
well,
when the push comes out later, it's going to be so bruised.
Yeah, it's going to be a squishy hatchery, but he's actually ditching Reaper production. So I think Maru doesn't think he can do this. I think he's hoping that there's going to be an overreaction to defend this from Su. He's already getting his factory.
The hatchery is going down in HP, though. It's going down by about 10 HP a second.
I think I was wrong. I think because he's not coming at it with any Lings or anything.
Okay.
Yeah. He just kills it, and then he leaves the game. I'm like, sorry, everybody. Only two good games out of the 3 tonight. That's crazy. So when I saw him stop the Reapers, I thought, well, maybe he just knows, like, so perfectly that there's, he can't possibly kill this at this point in time. Not the case at all.
It turns out he knows perfectly this is all he needs
It's
to
also
kill the hatchery.
funny to see that, because then I don't know why Sue, I feel like if Sue knows this in and out, why he threw the hatchery down there to begin with if the Reaper came up.
Well, he sees only one Reaper, and at that point, I wasn't checking the Overlord scouting, but he might not know that it is going to be the 2 Rax Reaper opening.
Yeah.
And if it's just Reapers coming out of one single barracks with an expansion, the hatchery will be bruised, but it won't die. So it's a little bit of a gamble. It's a low risk, high reward situation there for Sue. And he ends up losing the minerals from canceling the hatchery in 1 drone, but had Maru gone for a different build, could be a very fast 3rd hatchery. So I understand taking the risk there from Sue's perspective.
Okay, the Hellions and the Reapers are going to come up now. And he's going to get a confirmation the hatchery is being remade over there. Again, it's uncomfortable for the Zerg to get thrown off like that. We've got Stim. We have 2 Cyclones about to pop out here. I almost said hatch, but about to pop out. And we're probably going to have a little bit of pressure play here. It's going to look like the last game, but I think this is going to be a more potent push.
Pretty fast 3rd gas here for Sue. Baneling Nest also going down.
So it's less Hellions. There's some Reapers here. He never had to get rid of those Reapers.
What is the Ling count right now for Sue?
I don't feel like I've seen that many, but he's got to have a couple of... Well, no, he only has 6.
It's only 6, and he just got supply blocked, and he just made 3 more drones.
Oh, my God. And Maru's turning around. I guess there's no way he could know that there's that
Yeah.
few Lings, but, like...
So there's actually only drones. He makes 0 Lings.
Yeah.
He finds a way to morph the previous Zerglings back into drones.
I know my opponent's so good he would never fully commit to this, so I don't make Lings anyways.
Yeah, I feel like Maru, that's a little bit of a missed opportunity, but of course, if Sue had made more Lings, then suddenly you're in the danger of losing all these units that otherwise have map control, right? So it does make sense, but there was a chance, had Maru pushed into that 3rd base, that he could have gotten quite a bit of damage done on those queens.
So double Evo coming down here. We're going to see the upgrades start to come as the push comes in. So, you know, you need upgrades long term. Oh, and it's going to be Hellbats.
Hellbats with double medevacs of Marines, too. I see now why Maru was playing this slow. He was building up to a really big push. 2 queens instantly get taken down. A 3rd one as well.
My
No
God, he go right on top of the Banelings. I think this game might just end. This might just be it. This is like a full-on decapitation of Sue.
Yeah, 24 more Lings in production, but there's so many Sim Marines. There's 4 Hellbats. And working into this choke point here, the minerals, there should not be a lot of surface area here for Sue.
It's a full-on execution back here. There's no way. There's a couple Banes that are going to hatch, but I think there's just not enough that he can... Well, hold on. Maybe he comes into the corner. No, never. Never. He's just going to end this game. There's no way.
Yeah, only 2 more Lings on the map.
Damn. That was a crazy game.
Yeah, wow.
That was a really cool attack. And that's Maru basically abandoning late game play. He had a very sophisticated set of switches and tech. He did deny that 3rd hatchery, forcing the cancel. Sue also was going for double upgrade. I mean, maybe you can go for double upgrade if you have some Zerglings or something to fight that, but he just didn't have anything to deal with that. The Banes were also being more close enough to the attack that was the real shutdown. Queen's getting killed is one thing. Once you get the Hellbats on top of, you know, Baneling eggs and they kill that, there's nothing you can do. So at the end of the day, it's the result we expected, but inside the games themselves, some really cool stuff went down.
Yeah, in game 3 especially, I think Sue took a little bit of a risk trying to metagame Maru right there. It didn't quite pan out. Guys, we're going to go to a break where we get back SHIN versus DRG in match 2.
Baby, I'm ready for Sometimes I hunt for the storm just to weather it. Prefer them deadly than challenge accepted. And don't get too friendly, my motives are treacherous. There's a thin line between pain and what pleasure is. And on that thin line is me leaving them breathless. Make them aware it's their moment of reckoning. Used to be less of a wreck, now I'm reckless. I'm the best and I still get the best of them. Hold up. Always been the one that got them carrying. Still get a little bloodlust every now and then. Beckoning.
You're my best kept secret. I don't know why, but I still try to keep it. You got me in pieces, 'cause you know you're my muse, you're my weakness. I'll do anything, anything for you. I'll do anything, anything not to lose you. So I'll keep my mouth shut. 'Cause having you is such a rush. Got me feeling so used. Got me acting confused. Like I don't know myself, baby, you're pulling through hell. 'Cause loving you is ooh. 'Cause loving you is living in black and white. The way you look at me, yeah, it stops time. Baby, you're my lifeline. So close, oh, we're so intertwined. I'll do anything, anything for you. I'll do anything, anything not to lose you. So I'll keep my mouth shut. 'Cause having you is such a rush. Got me feeling so used. Got me acting confused. Like I don't know myself, baby, you put me through hell. 'Cause loving you is ooh. 'Cause loving you is got me feeling so used. Got me acting confused. Like I don't know myself, baby, you put me through hell. 'Cause loving you is ooh. 'Cause loving you is 'cause loving you is
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for waiting. We're going to go into the second best of 3 of the evening. It's going to be a ZVZ. We just had a really great match with Maru versus Sue. Maru did come out on top, but man, there were some great plays there from Sue. Really impressive stuff with Maru, especially in game 3. I mean, once he realized, okay, I don't want to play late game. I don't want to play like the proper, let's both go to the end of the earth with our tech here and, you know, use up all of the map. He just went in there and completely killed Sue.
Oh, it's a smart move. I mean, you can tell that Sue was kind of metagaming Maru's passive playstyle there.
Yeah.
And Maru's just like, I'm not going to play into that anymore here in game 3. I'm going to pull the rug out from under you. And as you said, it was a decapitation move. Very cool. And speaking of decapitation moves, I feel like we are in store for a couple of those because besides Maru, there are nothing but Zergs in this group. And ZBZ is perhaps the most volatile matchup that I ever get to watch.
This is going to be a good ZVZ for sure. This is, I think that Shin's supposed to win this. By the way, Shin formerly known as Ragnarok. We'll see if he sticks with this ID permanently. Kind of crazy to change your ID this long in StarCraft 2. DRG, sometimes he's so on point, sometimes he just doesn't look great. And I don't know which season it is. We're going to have an idea after game 1. But right now, I want to see which DRG is coming in today.
As a wild card, he kind of feels like Gumiho to me in that regard. Not in terms of the range of builds, but just in terms of in any given season, you feel like he can go to the finals or he might get knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. So, you know, he did have a decent run last year. You know, he was definitely present. So if he's built, you know, he's built off of the play before, I think he can come back and be more viable this time around. We're going to go to Hectite here for game number 1.
Set number 1. Set 2 will be played on Golden Aura. Set 3 on Hard Lead. This is Shin's pick here on Hecate. It's always interesting to me what maps get picked and banned in a Zerg versus Zerg or a PvP or a TVT because they are mirror matchups. And I'm trying to read into this. I don't know exactly what to expect from these guys, but given it's Shin and DRG, probably be some pretty aggressive games.
It could be some fast ones. Let's get into this.
I love the graphics this season.
Yeah, they definitely stepped it up this time around.
All right, in the bottom left, spawning is the red Zerg DRG. In the top right, we have Shin.
Oh, that's right. We're not doing the intros. I'm still not used to this yet.
I'm still not quite used to it. I was like, well, I'll introduce Shin after he comes off camera.
Yeah. It's good to have people back at the studio again.
Yeah, a lot of people in the crowd today.
And guys, don't forget, we're on every Thursday until the season's done, obviously.
Oh, Shin, cheesy fella. Hatch, gas, pool. I'm thinking this might just be a straight up Link flood.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll see. I think Pig in particular is quite a fan of this build.
This is a good build.
Because it should look to DRG as he scouts across the map, just like a hatch first opening.
This is one of the crazy things about RTS openings is like sometimes you have a completely different build, but on the surface when you peek in, it looks like it is not the build it is.
Right. It's
especially
hard to
versus Zerg. Yeah, you get these openers where like they might misread it, and then all these Lings come in there and they just get wiped out.
And I wonder exactly how many drones Shin is going to get up to with this build, because he does have a little bit of time if he wants to wait for starting Link production. Sometimes you see players go all the way up to 20 drones for going the all-in, so it seems like just one more. So 16 drones, about as aggressive as it gets for a hatch first opening like this one.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, DRG on his side of the map is still mining gas, I think with one drone maybe at a time. Circling speed is already done, so he does have the potential to throw down a Bailing Nest or a Roach Warren should the situation call for it, but my question is, how quickly is he going to realize that this Ling all-in is coming, because DRG is actually gearing up to take a third hatchery right now, Tasteless.
Yeah, and when you see the third hatchery being sent out, that means he does not expect an attack to come in. Now look at this, he's even going to start to make it look like he wants to wall in, like, oh no, I hope you don't Ling rush me.
I love that.
I better wall in.
Shin's making 12 Lings right now too.
And
DRG, excuse me, I got the names mixed up there. DRG is now starting Ling production and going for Bailing Nest.
Did he oversell this?
And have two players all ending each other here, Tasteless.
Yeah, this is actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right. Not!
The cancel's done.
But, you know, now the Lings are going to come across the map. Now, the fact that there's a Bailing's Nest coming is the one saving grace here for DRG.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't look like he's going to cancel that hatchery just yet. Of course, the Lings are going to beeline over here to the natural. He's going to put the Queens in the front, the Lings in the back. We don't have any eggs started yet here for the Banelings.
Oh, you got to be careful here as DRG moving forward like this. Gives an opportunity for Shin to get a big surround on those Queens, taking a lot of damage. The front line is evaporated. First Queen gets surrounded, taken down. DRG is going to retreat here to the ramp, but the Link flip might just be too much. Bailing Nest now almost complete, but I don't know if the DRG is going to have time to get any more Lings out.
Yeah, we don't have any Banes being produced here. The Queens have been picked off. The Ling reinforcements have come in. 16 more Lings about to hatch over here for DRG, but he needs to get his Zerglings with those Lings that are about to reinforce.
And those 16 Lings, they might be enough as SHIN right now, the reinforcements a little bit slow moving across the map. More Lings popping right now for DRG, trying to hold the ramp. Reinforcements from the natural expansion. A pretty good fight here to start things out for DRG. He does have a couple more Lings. As it just continues to go back and forth, and now SHIN sees the first Bailing. He knows that he's kind of on a clock if he wants to continue with this attack. He has to make it work right now.
Ooh, good job. He takes out that Bailing that was morphing. I didn't see if there was one morphing in the main, but I don't see any on the map. He's morphing some on the ramp.
Oh, I love this Cocoon right here on the ramp.
Yeah, it's really good.
Kind of reinforcing the wall, but that Queen eventually is going to go down. Will it buy enough time for these Bailings to get done? I think the one at the top of the ramp surely is going to finish.
Oh, he gets it in time, but the next one comes out.
Pretty good connection there. Gets 5 or 6 Lings.
19 workers versus 19 workers. Another Baneling starts. The third hatchery that was canceled. The drone is still there. He does get a dive onto that Baneling, but the Cocoon is safe, and the Baneling will hatch.
4 HP on that Cocoon right now, and I think SHIN, he's given up on this a little bit. He does throw down a Baneling's nest, but he's already started to pump out some drones. 25 drones now in total here for SHIN to the 19 of DRG.
Tries to send one Ling up into the main. I don't know that he can get in there. He sends a second Zergling up. He's going to come through, count the drones. Sees a third drone coming down from the main.
So SHIN should have a pretty good idea of exactly where DRG is at, and it seems like I got to kill the creep teamer to build the wall.
Funny,
yeah, it's smart. Things might normalize from here. It looked like DRG was basically on death's row, man. That Queen was wigging out right there. Quite a big shake, but oh, it's crazy how such aggressive openings like these ones can just
suddenly we're just in a game right now.
Simmer down.
Workers are basically even. There's no third base on either side. We're getting that Baneling tech out now.
It really has calmed down. I would say if you're tuning in just now, you would have no idea.
Yeah,
you would have no idea.
It's kind of a slow ZVZ.
What happened here in the early game?
So the Roach Warren's going to come down as well. It is going to be the third base seized again here for DRG.
Let's see if she can get a hatchery cancel here, as those 4 Lings can get a little bit of damage in. Those Banelings not quite able to get the intercept. Oh, that's a pretty good hit. 6 or 7 Lings go down, as SHIN just going to try and trade these units out as best he can.
Yeah, he's going to be able to damage that hatchery. He can try to do zoning here with the Banes. It's only 2 Lings attacking, so there are actually more Lings for DRG. He's able to avoid most of those Banes. You can see there's a little bit of reaching here for DRG. He needs to try to get into a spot where he can actually cover this. I think he did manage to basically push SHIN away.
Yeah, but one thing I really did like there for SHIN is that he forced DRG to make a lot more units that he probably didn't want to have to make, but I say that, and DRG gears up with Roach production, so it seems like this time it's his turn to be aggressive. SHIN taking the triangle third right now in the low ground, but Link's already assaulting the natural expansion. Can he wall it in time?
He does get that wall up.
Oh, just barely, though.
Those Roaches are coming out. They can fire over the Queen.
Yeah, wow.
Drive that back.
I don't know if SHIN can actually defend this third hatchery. It's going to have very low HP after these Lings are done with it. Yeah, there will be the cancel.
I'm feeling like this is getting better and better here for DRG. He's going to run in and try to do a scout. He will be able to get in the main, see exactly what's going on here.
Those Roaches that DRG made, they are not moving across the map just yet. He's already starting Link production, so if he's going to go, I feel like now might be the time. Although maybe he's just going to kind of bank and wait until that third hatch is just done before the investment actually kicks in.
We do have the missile attack upgrade coming down for SHIN. That will be a major factor here if it's just going to be Ling Roach versus Ling Roach. But with the third base done, a couple extra drones are over here. SHIN is ahead in the worker count, though. So maybe the drone count isn't the most important thing at this phase of the game. Maybe it's really just who's just getting more minerals bit by bit here.
Yeah, and it seems like DRG is basically timing this attack to come in before that third hatchery can do anything to pay for itself. It's a lot of Lings and Ravagers tasteless. SHIN actually has none on the field right now, just pure Roaches. Roach speed only halfway done. Oh, and that's part of the wall in, too.
I don't think he can deny the upgrades. I think we're just a little bit too late on that. He might have one more round. No.
Close.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's too bad.
I think if he went for it, he could have gotten it.
Yeah, well, there's no way to know, right? But, I mean, yeah, had he been able to get that, he could end up... I guess there's probably just enough time on the Roach Warren here as well. Oh!
It gets canceled.
Not bad.
Oh, that's dangerous. Shin can't even make any more roaches right now. This is disastrous for him. He doesn't really have the gas to make many Ravagers either, as the Lings are going to come in. If they can get us around right now, that should tee up the Biles here for the Ravagers. Some big hits right there on the Roaches. A lot of damage getting done, but the Roach count might just be a little bit too high here for Shin. He's getting on top of the Ravagers.
Yeah,
a number of them already getting taken down.
He's still got those upgrades on those Roaches. They're just able to tear down anything over there. That's going to be a GG.
Wow.
Shin takes game 1. A crazy back and forth.
Yeah, that was a wild game.
That was sick.
0G defends by the skin of his teeth, and then Shin also barely defends. If +1 range weapons gets taken out, I mean, if that evolution chamber goes down, maybe
it might have gone better.
Second.
Yeah. Well, it was wild because he almost got both upgrades, but clearly that's the one that mattered. And but yeah, even when you were saying that, the Lings come in, it's like, well, this tees up the Biles, but then all the Lings disappear so fast.
That +1 really paid.
Kind of a counterintuitive game to watch. You don't normally see the 3-base guy panicking and rushing the guy who's getting an upgrade on 2 bases.
I think he felt like he just had this window because he got that cancel on the 3rd hatchery.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're going to reinvest in that 3rd hatchery. It's not going to have any payoff. You're going to get like a couple larvae out of it, and that's my window to kill you. But explosive, really. An exciting ZVZ to kick things off, and if you like that kind of action, we have a lot more ZVZs in store for you today.
Don't you worry about a thing. There's plenty more ZVZs tonight. We're going to go into game number 2 here on Golden Aura. Our ZVZ continues on right now. Shin with a 1-0 lead versus DRG.
All right.
Oh God, we're not doing. Dude, this is going to be a whole season of me just sitting here quietly, like production messed up, and I'm not going to say anything until they figure it out.
Yeah, Shin, the blue Zerg in the top left, DRG, the red Zerg in the bottom right. For a second there, I was wondering whether Shin was going to be doing the same opening here in game number 2, but not just yet.
So it's going to be Hatch first on both sides. Pretty interesting short game back there.
I say that, and then he goes back into the 15 gas. We have the 14 pool. Oh my goodness.
Get ready.
Same build again. Shin really does like this opening, by the way. I see this, I think, in every single ZBZ series that I watch him play.
Yeah.
I was watching him play versus Dark from IAM on the train ride over to the studio today. I think the last game that I watched was also this build.
Yeah.
It's just like, watched 3 Shin games in a row, opening 15 hatch, 15 gas, 15 or 15 or 14 pool, and oh man.
I mean, he's good at it.
That's one of the reasons why he was such a scary opponent, even just a couple of years ago. There was a while, I think it was 2022, if I'm not mistaken, where we were actually wondering, like, is Ragnarok just the best Zerg in Korea now? Because he was getting top 6, I think, every single season. He got 2nd place to Maru in the last GSL of the year, if memory serves, and he did taper down a little bit after that. 2023 was a little bit more quiet for him, but he's always been dangerous.
Sorry, I didn't mean to run over you there. Him and Creator have been 2 guys I've been watching really closely to see, like, okay, are they going to get to, like, the next evolution? Are they going to be, entering into their final form here? But, he's been overshadowed historically by just these other Zergs that are in GSL. But I think he's definitely been improving. So we've got Ling speed coming down on both sides. Pretty much even.
Just a little bit faster there for Shin, and he's actually droning quite heavily here. So similar opening, but it seems like this is kind of his go-to in terms of starting out, and then he has a couple different ways to branch off. At IEM, he went up to 20 drones and then to Ling Flood, and the previous game against DRG, I think it was 16 or 17 drones. And now here in game 2 against DRG, it's just pretty much nothing but drones. But from DRG's perspective, this looks about the same. Even the evolution chamber and the natural wall looks the same. So a little bit of mind games here in the ZBZ, just 2 games into the series.
18 links about to pop here. Oh, no!
Yeah, it's tough to get that wall in right. And also the
my
queens.
God, they're still alive, too.
Did he even notice he's coming into the main base? Because the queens were attacking that overlord there in the main. They did not deny the full scout.
You're just talking about how smart that was.
Huh.
So he's not making more right now.
That is not a wall in. That is not a wall in DRG. That queen going to get picked off immediately here. And now drones are falling.
I feel like he should have been ready for this. Now these lings are going to come in here and do a lot of damage.
Yeah,
he scouted it and he's still going to die to it.
He did not give this the respect it deserves. Because it's hitting so much later, I think he just kind of wrote this off.
They were both tabbed out when the lings scouted. That's what happened. Okay, so there's 15 workers. This is so weird.
I don't mean to call games early, but
I'll call
DRG
games early.
is dead, Tasteless.
That's just wild. He's like, what are you doing? You're making lings?
DRG saw the lings
come
out of the main base.
You see a wall, if you see a wall in end lings, then the wall in you're trying to sell that it's not lings.
I wouldn't be surprised if DRG just tapped out right now. Because he's not going to bring this wall in. I mean, 3 queens, it's basically no DPS, but the Roach Warren's already done.
Just imagine if a transfuse came down on that queen. Oh my God, he's not going to kill.
He's
just, oh, that's just, it's worse than I even thought. The point I was trying to make was just imagine that queen doesn't die, and then it doesn't die.
It's like somebody in like an FPS game when they toggle to like 16,000 DPI and they spin 10 times and then no-scope you. Like
yeah.
That's what SHIN did with that queen right there.
The number of lings that were bled off there, it's a little bit shy of double the workers here. SHIN that far ahead. Queens all still alive.
I mean, DRG's going to stick it out because I think he's a little bit thrown off by how committed SHIN might have been, but...
Well, I think that right now, I mean, SHIN's playing a world-class game.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm not even going to try to end this game. This game is your problem now.
I like it, man. I mean, these Zergs, they have a lot of ZBZs ahead of them today, assuming that Maru gets out first in this group. It's going to be nothing but ZBZs besides that. And so SHIN right now, he's trying his best to metagame DRG, but also showing that he can branch off from this opening into a couple of different potent variants that are all very dangerous. I guarantee Sue right now is watching this in the break room and is like, okay, how am I going to dissect this build and try and deal with it in my series?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the mind games are just out of the world right now. And SHIN, I think when he moves across the map with these 18 roaches to DRG's 43 drones in 2 queens, Dongregru will finally tap out.
Yeah, that's going to be wow. That's my favorite ending we've had so far, guys. That was probably the weirdest game of the whole night. I mean, you scout the mass lings, and then the lings come and attack you and kill you, and you don't have a wall in, you don't have your queens protected, you don't have lings to block.
I think DRG might have thought that he had a wall in there at the natural expansion, but when you have the buildings lined up diagonally like that in the natural, your queen has to be placed basically perfectly.
As Artosis says, it didn't make.
The problem is he made it, but it just didn't fit.
It didn't fit.
The queen was like slightly off center, and if that thing is not picture perfect, it is going to go down. DRG, he does not look happy with that game because I know that he's kicking himself. If he threw down one more evolution chamber to complete the wall in, or even just turn that into a 1-tile gap for the queen to the minimal surface area, that game continues on. Maybe he takes a little bit of damage, but he's not dead. Instead, his queen count, or his drone count gets reset basically to nothing. And guys, we're going to go to a short break. When we get back, Maru versus SHIN in the winners match.
일단 시즌3 떨어지고 좀 쉬었고 또 카토비치에 있어가지고 병원 다니면서 연습만 한 것 같습니다.
GSL 발표도 더 늦어지고 제가 카토비체를 못 들어가지고 근데 이제 선수들 하고 있는 거 보니까 더 현타가 와가지고 아 이거 하는 게 맞나 이런 생각을 자꾸 하면서 그냥 고민하면서 지냈던 것 같아요.
GSL이라는 엄청 큰 대회를 못 들어와서 항상 성실함에 빠져가지고 체인처럼 살다가 이번 연도는 좀 다르다라는 걸 좀 보여주기 위해 열심히 하고 있습니다.
스타트를 하고 싶었는데 올라간 대회가 없어가지고 쉬면서 놀았습니다.
작년에 너무 못해가지고 8강 간 것만으로도 스스로 정말 잘했다고 생각을 하기 때문에 만족하고 있고 그러니까 만약에 제가 내용 이겼으면 자신감으로 이겼을 수도 있을 것 같아요. 만약에 제가 올라갔으면 성주가 우승했겠죠.
솔직히 목표는 4강이었는데 만족은 못하지만 어느 정도 괜찮은 것 같습니다. 저우가 사기
세라를 우승하면 너무 뻔했어가지고 종족 사기가 아니라 그 게이머로서의 능력치를 봐도 세랄이 압도적이라서
아쉽다. 세라를 못 이기나? 나도 못 이기지만 시청자 입장에서 말할 수 있는 거잖아요.
말하는 거 보면 재밌긴 해요. 근데 찍은 사람은 빨리 가도 되지 않을까.
확실히 조직 형식은 저랑 안 맞는 것 같아요. 뭔가 뽑는다는 게 그렇게 막 쉬운 일은 아닌 것 같아요. 제 예전보다.
프로게이머 하면서 처음 뽑힌 것 같은데 굴욕적이더라고요. 애기 때로 돌아가는 느낌.
무작위로 하는 것보다는 원하는 선수들 데리고 가는 게 저는 뭐 괜찮았어요. 네.
저는 그럴 생각 없었어요. 솔직히 제 성적을 해가지고 뭐 생각보다 더 쉬운 것 같아서 제가 잘하면 떨어질 일은 없을 것 같아요.
아니 일부러 한 거 아니고 그냥 제 방에 있던 건데 괜히 나가지고 그 성적 자극해가지고 대업이 IM에서 하는 거 보니까 아 테란돈 이거 심한데? 해가지고 한 10% 정도는 대업이 뽑을 수도 있겠다 했는데 성주가 그렇게 바로 뽑는 거 보고 힘 좀 내주고 싶다 그런 생각 좀 들었습니다.
이제 성주를 1등으로 보내고 저그저그만 준비를 하면 올라가는 상황이잖아요. 성주를 못 이겨도 올라갈 수 있다는 자신감이 있고 혹시나 성주를 이기면 더 좋은 거고 그냥 편하게 할 수 있을 것 같아요.
저도 그 라인에 있을 줄 알았어요. 저도 연습을 안 해가지고 근데 애들이 신기하게 안 뽑더라고요. 저는 기분 좋았어요. 저그가 많아가지고 마음은 안 드는데 성주 올라가고 저그 3명에서 33%씩 나눠가지고 그래도 2등으로는 올라가지 않을까요? 뭔가?
결승은 가고 싶은데 또 준우승할 것 같아서 우승하고 싶습니다.
저도 e스포츠 월드컵에 진출해서 꼭 사우디 한번 가보고 싶어요.
일단 1차 목표는 GSL 하면서 사우디 한번 가보는 거?
스타투가 나름 비전이 좀 많이 생긴 것 같아서 각오도 새롭게 하게 되었고 또 성주가 또 새로운 또 자극도 줬기 때문에 열심히 해보겠습니다.
Tunnel vision. You give me tunnel vision. You give me tunnel vision. You give me tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision. That's what happened in that last game where he didn't deal with the Lings coming to kind of attack him. Tunnel vision. Welcome back, guys. This is the match to decide who's going to move on into the next round of the GSL here. We're in the round of 16 now. After this is the round of 8. Either Maru or SHIN is going to get there first.
Yeah, Maru looked a little bit shaky there against Sue in the first series. I think absolutely still the favorite here to advance over SHIN. But given, I don't know, I'm kind of at a hard spot gauging this because yes, Maru just did come off a fantastic performance in IEM. The only player that was able to stop him was Cyril, but the fact that Sue for so long has been struggling, he's come back from military service and then put up such a great showing in Game 1 and Game 2 there against Maru. It's hard for me to see if that's Maru having a little bit of an off day or if that's really Sue just kind of regaining his form. And so I don't quite know what to expect here against SHIN, who's one of the best Zerg players here in Korea.
Yeah, and SHIN looked really, really strong. I mean, you know, the other question, I guess, is DRG in very poor form? I don't know. Time will tell on that. We're ready now to go into game number 1 of this best of 3. Remember that the winner of this will be moving on to the round of 8. The loser will be going on to the final match. Okay, we've got SHIN over here in the top right, Maru in the bottom left. And look, Maru had some very fun, very cool games today. It is a little bit of a breath of fresh air to see Zergs we don't expect to hang with Maru actually do so, like we saw with Sue here. I would assume SHIN's probably in slightly better shape than Sue. I mean, SHIN's performed very well. If you're tuning into this match right now and you're thinking, who the hell is SHIN? This is Ragnarok. He had an ID change.
I just had a top 8 at IM as well. He's been looking good.
So we're going to get the hatchery coming down here. No proxy for Maru. In fact, it's going to be Barracks and Gas on one base to start.
Yeah, here on the high ground, too, worth noting is Maru and Bjorn. 2 Terran players here in Korea that absolutely love to throw down that Wallen and the natural expansion as opposed to in the main base, but this time Maru's shaking it up a little bit, and I like to see that from him because coming into today, ideally he's only going to have to play 2 series, you know, the first match and then the winner's match to advance into the round of 8, but you know, there's always that risk that you get upset. You have to play that final match, and so you want to kind of show a little bit of everything so that your opponents don't quite know what to expect as the day continues on.
As Artosis would say, you know, build order randomization is essential. You need to have it be ambiguous enough, and you have to have a wide enough range of play that your opponent doesn't just know what you're going to do. I think for most people who are students of the game, you're used to doing like one build in each matchup, right? Or maybe one build in each matchup on each map. And trying to really iron that out. But when you get to the highest levels, you have to be able to do so many different things that people can't just blind counter you or hard counter you. You know, you don't want to have any kind of obvious ticks in your play or something you'll default to. We'll see some players do end up defaulting to that, especially with bad cheeses if they're losing in a series, even in GSL finals. But this is Maru with maybe the greediest build of all.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fast third command center, so almost certainly we will have some Cyclones come out of those, out of the reactor factory. Get some map control. I wouldn't be surprised if Maru also lifted the barrack to try and pick off that Overlord sitting above the natural expansion, which he absolutely loves to do. Most of his TBZs. And oh, in fact, actually, is he going to go for an add-on? What will this be?
So it's going to be 2 Hellions. I was a little bit caught off guard by that. I was on the same page as you. I thought maybe it would be Cyclones. But the Hellions, look, it's a cheap way to try to control creep and set up for a push later on. Also, keep in mind that we've had a couple games where he makes like 2 Hellions and then goes for 2 Cyclones.
Yeah,
so
I think that's usually what you do. It's just if you want to get the starport out, you have to go for that first. But actually just going to double up here on the Hellions. So.
And a Viking. So this looks like actually an older build. It actually is an older build. That doesn't mean it's bad, but, you know, especially with, you know, the last patch and everything, I wouldn't have guessed this would be the play to go for, but let's see exactly how SHIN responds. It's going to be a run-by as well.
Wow, yeah. Very bold with the first 2 Hellions and the Reaper. Trying to get some good shots here on the Zerglings, but actually the spread here from SHIN, quite good. Mitigating a lot of the splash damage. I think he might have only lost 1 Ling so far. So this run by, and yes, Maru is going to get the scout. He might, if he's lucky, get 1 drone. But this is really not the damage he was looking for. And the follow-up for Maru will be Cloak Banshees with more Hellions. So as you were saying, Tasis, quite a bit of an old school build.
Yeah, kind of a throwback build. But sometimes it's good to bring old stuff into the new play. You know, old can sometimes feel like bad, but this is kind of cool. And, you know, to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, you need to have a range. You need to be able to do a lot of different things here. And so I don't think there's a whole lot that Maru's going to try to do with this other than maybe get a few kills with the on the workers with the Banshee, kill a few creep tumors with the Banshee and or the Hellions. And he's just going to develop. He is going to go for Cloak. So there's that. But I've casted, you know, this game, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, man. We're going to see a bunch of infantry accumulated behind this. Actually, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. It's getting crazy. There's 2 factories.
Yeah, Maru's going mech.
Wow.
By the way, just something kind of funny that I saw there that I want to note is when the Viking went for the second Overlord there on the map, SHIN queued up, I believe, 8 Overlords. He was sitting at like 60 out of 122 or something. I love when Zerg players just press that Overlord button. They're like, I don't have to deal with this for the next 5 minutes.
No. I'm going to keep producing what I'm going to do. No matter how many overlords you get, I'm not going to be supply blocked. Sometimes that's actually the better way to play. I think a lot of people envision games where it's, oh, good scout. He sees a second factory. Some people, I think, envision pro games as, like, literally every overlord hatches right when they're about to be supply blocked.
Yeah.
And everything flows out perfectly. A lot of pro games do not work like that.
Yeah, especially with Zerg of all races, where you kind of want to go with the ebb and flow of the game. Right, first, Cloaked Banshee now coming here into the main base, but Queen's well positioned to intercept. There's a Spore Crawler in the main as well. And double armory here for Maru. So full-on mech now, adding in some Cyclones. And I wonder how many Cyclones are going to get added to this composition, because with the amount of Hellions that he has, Lings aren't too much of a threat for surrounds. It's very hard for Lings to get a good surround on these Hellions unless Maru is exceptionally ambitious on creep, which I guess is what's going on, but most of the Hellions should be able to survive this despite that.
It was a pretty good surround regardless, but I mean, most of the Hellions do live. We've got the Roach Warren coming along. I gotta say, I think that you want to be maybe a little bit more cautious with those Hellions, but he is clearing the Lings out.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that he was so aggressive with them. I guess he's not really looking to play too much battle mech, but no, he's adding in a lot more Cyclones.
He's making another command center.
Yeah.
So he's basically going to be just harassing and roaming. I thought it would be battle mech off 3 base. Just when we saw the other factories come down, I'm like, okay.
I was thinking the same thing. I think you would poke and prod a little bit with the Hellions, maybe kill some creep tumors, do a little bit of trading, but that was full dives there from Maru.
He's really good at making this a guessing game on the Zerg's part. It's really not clear how committed he is. But, you know, you lose those Hellions. How prepared are you going to be for all these Lings?
Well, the SimCity is quite good here at the third base of Maru as he drops a scan, sees the Spire there in the main, as well as is the Infestation Pit here on the main base under the scan, or getting thrown down elsewhere? I'm not quite sure. In any case, SHIN is continuing up his tech tree, kind of getting a little bit of everything, actually. A Hydralisk Den as well.
Okay, so the SCV has been transferred to the 4th. It's 4 base versus 4 base. I don't think Zerg actually saw the base at 9 o'clock. We know that Lings came in and saw the Cyclones at the Triangle base, but we have a 5th being made at 12. But, you know, the Zerg needs to know what position they're in. Are they, you know, bracing for impact because of a push, or are they actually needing to play catch up or get further ahead? The push is going to come out regardless. This is going to clear a lot of creep. I don't know if there's any way to contest the Terran army that's roaming right now. I don't think Terran can commit anywhere, and I don't think Maru will. But this is going to be tricky.
Yeah, and cleaning up that creep spread is going to give him a lot more maneuverability later in the game. As Cyclones, if there's one thing they're good at, it's map control. Here in the early game, as SHIN is going to try and find a surround. Over there in the top left is also scout the 4th base at 9 o'clock, but really doesn't feel like Zerg has enough on the map to go for any kind of surround. Only 42 Lings, a handful of Roaches, just 6 Banelings. So Zerg Army looking a little bit meek right now, is really investing a lot of resources into upgrades and also into unlocking all these different parts of his tech tree. He's got 2 more hatcheries coming down. Hive is underway. He's getting his Hydralisk upgrades. 2-2 as well. And it has me a little concerned he might be spreading himself too thin here against an army that is looking very potent there from Maru, but all that thought tasteless. There's nothing here to defend the 3rd base, so some SCV is surely going to get taken down.
Yeah, naked 3rd base. Good block. Really important block to keep those tanks alive.
How did Maru only lose 3 SCVs during all of that? That's crazy
that's
to me.
insane. I mean, when you think, you know, a Ling run by like that, that's the most expendable, strong move you could do.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm like, oh, you should have killed more SCVs than that for those Lings.
Yeah, I was expecting like 5, 7, maybe 9 SCVs, but instead it's just the bare minimum with an unprotected 3rd base. Guarantee if I was playing Terran, I would have lost every single one of those things.
Yeah, and then the Lings would have surrounded your tanks. So the Army's going to move out. Now with siege tanks, he can set up a foothold to hit. I'm not sure where exactly he wants to go. I am very curious to see how SHIN's going to handle this. There's Hellbats here to defend. He's going to get a really nice spread with the tanks.
I feel like a lot of this is going to come down to the Viper control here for SHIN. He has 3 early Vipers, could be full on energy there in the main base. Now, I don't know if he can defend this gold, but that meek army has gotten a lot more potent over the past couple of minutes, as SHIN is now maxed on a quite expensive force. 2-2 getting closer and closer to completion.
Yeah, things are really building up here. 6 o'clock's being taken. The thing is, Maru's not hitting anywhere. He's going to slowly inch the tanks forward. Can he actually hit the resources at that base that's kind of in the middle?
The gold base? Surely
yeah,
he
yeah,
can.
Yeah, he can. Okay.
All right, Blinding Cloud's coming in. Shin actually attacking from the left side, able to clean up all those siege tanks, and the siege tanks here, the main army, are mostly mitigated. So some nice trades there for Shin.
And the Blinding Clouds dry up pretty fast. Both sides beginning to bank a lot of minerals, a lot of gas.
Oh, but he lost every single Viper during that engagement.
Yeah.
That's expensive to replace, and now they're going to be low on energy. This might give Maru a good opportunity to move in. Those Cyclones, especially with the armor shredding missile, get tons of damage on this army here for Shin. Reinforcing Lings coming through, but there are Blue Flame Hellions able to mop most of them up.
Okay, Shin doing a really good job. I don't think there's that much there behind the rest of this, so these tanks are going to fall, and that's going to be a big reset hit. We're going to have all of that mech remade. And of course, mech, it's a little bit different from bio. When you lose bio, you can replenish it and fill it back in pretty easily. Mech takes a little bit longer. Every tank that goes down is going to be so debilitating here for Maru.
I understand what you're saying, but Maru still almost has double digits in siege tanks, and let's also keep in mind that the units that Shin is throwing away, it's not just Lings and Roaches, it's Hydralisks, it's Vipers, it's very expensive units that are going to be hard to replace. I mean, his gas bank is almost non-existent. He's constantly sitting around 300 or less gas. Still isn't even maxed, and actually it's the macro player Maru going up to the gold base, taking additional expansion near maxed as Shin starts to work up Broodlords.
So he's repositioned, but he's not really in reach. Now there's also not a place to really go here to expand right now. It's kind of a funny, almost like a StarCraft 1 TVT where there's just tanks kind of spread out across the map. Broodlords are inbound.
Yeah, the Broodlords should do a good job of cleaning up this.
Yeah.
I think Maru needs to start pulling away from this position. Actually, abducting a Viking. Try and pick that one off. Actually can't get the Hydras in range because the siege tanks in this engagement not going as well for Shin as I would expect it to.
Yeah, this is kind of funny. It's such a small number of Vikings, but I guess it's enough. And the Broodlings aren't high enough in number. They're not being comboed in with the rest of this army that they can actually power through this. Maru unsieges. He's going to abandon this. He needs to reposition. He probably wants to get just a couple more Vikings to try to fight this. Really nice kiting over here.
Yeah, but this was the big surprise move from Shin, revealing these Broodlords and coming in when Maru was going to be at his least prepared to deal with it. And he didn't really get too much done. That wasn't the cleanest engagement. I mean, even the abducts coming in from the Vipers didn't manifest into any real damage, and you can kind of feel that he's under pressure right now to try and get more done because he knows the counter to the Broodlords are coming. 4 Thors underway, 2 more Vikings as Shin continues to try and push in, but Maru is just so entrenched. He keeps pulling away step by step away from these broods. And up until this point, his economy hasn't really been threatened, but finally Shin is on that gold.
All right, he's going to bring these Banshees forward here. The tanks are going to come in. Is it an overextension? I mean, Broodlord, some of the slowest units in the game, they are finally picked off. And this is going to be a moment where Maru can lash back out. Some targeting over here onto the command center. No SCVs over here to repair, but the tanks are going to be in range. A shimmy to the side. Can he possibly pick this off? I guess even if he does, there's another command center over there.
There's always another command center.
There's always, yeah.
Well, as it is right now, Maru still able to secure that gold base. Shin traded off yet again a lot of expensive units to try to make something happen. And I love the idea coming in with about 6 Broodlords to surprise his opponent. I don't think it got enough done. Maru was still too cost efficient for that trade to have been worth it. And so if you're Shin right now with Maru basically reaching his full potential, I don't know exactly what you do. Vikings even picking off Vipers right now. That's so expensive.
Yeah. A lot of Thors are added back in. It does feel like, especially in a game like this, the Broodlords, you have maybe one shot to make that work before it's just no longer going to be an element of surprise. The push is coming across the map. It's a maxed out Maru versus a nearly maxed out Shin. Both sides are low on minerals, they're low on gas. So what you lose is going to be a little bit tricky to recover from.
And the choice for Shin is going to be a lot of Ravagers to try and buy all this down, but I feel like if Maru just continues to play his slow game with snipes, with siege tanks, he can eventually work his way into a position to continue and deny this gold, but the Biles so far getting good damage done. Abducts there on the Thors, but Moves some tanky boys right there. A lot
Yeah.
of Zerg units are actually getting taken out after that. And I feel like SHIN just really doesn't have an answer for this. He's trying to get Neural Parasite, but I don't even know how many Infestors we have on the field right now.
Yeah, it's not very clear at this moment. More tanks coming to replace the ones that are picked off. He's still pushing it now. He's not close to anything that's of real importance other than that gold base to the right.
That's true, but I feel like SHIN is basically running out of options in terms of how to deal with this army efficiently. Maru just keeps whittling away at him, and at times we're seeing SHIN sit down at 170 or 180 supply with money in the bank. With Larva, he just can't make the right decision in terms of what to build. And moving forward like this with the Ravagers, sniping some siege tanks with Biles. These are good plays, but he has to make something happen right now.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's going to do it. He's going to drive him back. The count thins out. For a while, it was just Zerg units getting pounded by the siege tank shots, the Thor shots, but now we see a big push through here. The Thor is going to fall. The Ghosts have to be picked up and pulled away. Supplies virtually the same. Almost no bases left on the map. One on the right, one on the left. But we're getting into one of those very spread out games, but not with the usual Terran composition. Instead, it's going to be a very cumbersome mech comp. So I want to see how well SHIN can, try to take advantage of the sides of the map where the mech army is not at.
I mean, pulling the Queens to assist in that engagement was such a heads-up move here by SHIN. I think if they weren't part of the factor there, there's no way he wins that fight as decisively as he did, but still, there's a lot of problems here for the Zerg player. The Ghost count is almost double digits. The siege tanks are being produced 5 at a time right now, Tasteless. And Maru's economy, if he's able to take this high-yield gas base on the left side, I feel like it's not going to be stoppable. And this base from SHIN is still under threat. It is so low on HP.
Another nice little attack over here with the Lings. The gold base falls, and the bases that SHIN is on, he's been on for this whole game, basically. We're not getting mineral checks very often with the observing today, but you got to imagine he's going to need to get another base that he can hold here. Maru takes both the upper left and the bottom right. So he's still, yeah, there it is, GG. Maru basically plays a very interesting mech control game. I feel like I've never really said that. But like late game, I'm just going to mech and actually kind of have a mech death ball that I poke in with and trade out. And I got to say, every GSL I see Maru win in another way in TVZ. It's really something, man.
Yeah, that was an impressive game there from Maru for sure. I haven't seen mech played exactly that style in a really long time. I'm struggling to remember the last game that I saw a Terran player go for a mech and be that active in terms of just denying the center of the map with siege tanks, with Vikings, with a small number of Cyclones and Hellions. I mean, oftentimes, if it's a map control style, it's going to be something more like Battle Mech, where it's just these very highly mobile mech units that kind of move and shoot into nice space. But yeah, just a beautiful control game played there by Maru. I mean, he is really flexing his muscles here in TVZ today.
I mean, talk about a true master of the race, of the matchup. We're going to go into game 2. SHIN, I don't know what he could have done better back in that last game. I feel like there's so much that you could unpack about the way that Maru played, especially with the kind of dull opening, almost an anachronistic build coming out from him. We're going to go into game 2 and see what it looks like right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Spotting in the bottom left.
Not everything on point for this season.
It's an adjusting period, man.
Yeah.
I'm still not used to...
Have fun adding that song to your playlist at home, guys.
Still not used to not having the robot introduce the players for us.
I know. Changes.
I never thought I had to practice my player introductions. I thought that was just one of the
well,
perks
how do I
that
know
came with
who's
the
who?
gig.
Do I have to look at the screen at the bottom?
Which one's Maru? Is it the Terran? Is it the Zerg?
So we have barracks, double barracks actually on low ground. And I guess this is going to be the old Byun build. Obviously, maybe I should say the Byun opening because there's a lot of different ways this game can go. When we saw Byun do it, he did a lot of Mass Reaper or 3 Reaper. I think I casted a game where somebody went 1 Reaper too. That was kind of a cute play.
1 Reaper with double barracks?
Yeah, I just made a command center immediately after it. It got like scouted early.
That sounds like a Byun move. I imagine it would have to be him.
I can't remember where I saw it.
We might have even casted that together.
Yeah,
It's been so many games.
We probably casted 3 games like that, and we've already forgotten it because we've done so many now. So we want to watch how many Reapers are made, and also if and when the third base is taken. With the Reaper play, you can deny the third base. Interestingly, in the Su Maru game, Su, like, it's so weird. He hid the drone, and I was even saying, like, I wish pro gamers would check for the hidden drone more because I cast this so much where it's just out of eye shot. But then he, like, after the Reaper went away, he took it and it still got denied. Where I'm like, well, okay, who's actually more wrong here? Because you have to know if you can take that or not if the Reapers are coming. You can't just hide it, take it later, and still not have enough.
I think it really does depend on whether Terran goes for a 2 barracks or a 1 barracks Reaper opening.
Yeah,
because the DPS
true.
is just so much higher and it hits so much faster with a double barracks. And SHIN is doing relatively the same thing that Su did there. And I believe that was, what, game number 3, where he tried to take that third hatchery. And Maru, eventually, he is going to work his way around to that third hatchery. Finally is done doing some damage, gets a couple of lean kills there, and yeah, instantly heads onto that third base. And we'll see exactly how many Reapers he makes. I believe in the Su game it was 4 Reapers that were able to deny that third hatchery. But instead it seems like Maru just has his eyes a little bit more set on trying to get some damage done here in the main.
Yeah, maybe the hatchery's far enough along. He thinks, well, it's probably a lost cause. I could have come in there earlier. There's a lot of nuance for, you know, each of these Reaper builds on each of these maps and what you can and can't get away with. He's going to be behind the minerals. This is a pretty big commitment because a lot of times the Reapers never get back out.
Yeah, but there's going to be nothing in the natural expansion, so that means more drones are going to fall. 3 drones going down already. Can he get a 4th?
Oh!
He can! For 1 Reaper in total, that is a fantastic trade, especially if you consider that SHIN, to deal with this, had to make a couple more pairs of Zerglings, which also could have been drones. So Maru absolutely making the correct call. Instead of going for the third base, goes into the main, drops down into the natural, and gets a ton of economic damage done.
So we almost never have games where Reapers just tear through the base like that and get the kills.
Yeah.
Players are so good at defending against Reapers, generally speaking. I almost don't really talk about it while it's happening because not much is going to come. Now he's got some of the Reapers back at home. He's got the third command center coming. He's got the factory tucked away. Remember that we've seen oscillating from the Terran from mech to bio, mech bio. So, you know, he's keeping the ambiguity real again here in game 2. But he is going to be coming out with Hellions and Reapers like we saw before. You know, in a group where you only have Zergs, there's some brilliance to the way he's playing because there is a little bit of a pattern. But it never, the start of the pattern never matches the later part of the game from the previous game.
Yeah, and it's double factory again with concussive shell. So there'll be a 2-fact Marauder push coming out.
How many builds can Terran do like this? This is wild to me. And you know, each build requires a different unit composition, a different balancing act from the Zerg to deal with. And so concussive shells, this is probably going to be a build where you basically, in the first couple seconds, get the hits, get the kills, and it snowballs super fast.
Yeah, this is going to be a deadly push for SHIN to deal with, assuming that it does build up to a push, which is kind of funky because oftentimes, you know, in the past we would see builds with Hellbats and Marauders, and oftentimes it would be an all-in.
Right.
Just not even speaking recently, but many years ago, back when the Hellbat was kind of getting figured out its place in the meta as a unit. This time Maru is going 2 barracks with Marauders, with double factory now, adding in a 3rd factory off 3rd command center. So I feel like I felt for a moment that we're going to be building up to that Marauder push, but it seems like it's more of just a feign for SHIN because I don't think a single Marauder might have actually been produced out of that barracks. I think it was him just trying to bait SHIN into thinking that, no, I need this tech lab to get combat shields, I needed to get stim. Well, Maru's instead going for something much more akin to Battle Mech.
Yeah, well, we talked before, like, is it going to be Battle Mech in some of these games? This time it really is. And so now we've got that next factory coming down here.
I thought for sure, given that it was a double barracks opening, he would try to utilize that somehow, and with a tech lab, he would have it hedge into Marauders, but this might really take SHIN by surprise. I feel like for SHIN right now, from the Zerg perspective, you are a little bit suspicious because Maru hasn't done any Marine drops to this point. There's been no Widowmine drops, so obviously, where is that factory production going? Where is that barracks production going? What are you building up to?
He's got something up his sleeve. He's going to have to show it in a little bit here. So he's going to move out right now. Hurricane thrusters are done. He's going to come across the map here with all these Cyclones. Is there enough to basically hold any one position? The Lings are handy, and he gets a surround on the Hellions.
Oh, that's huge. Those 5 Hellions get surrounded.
Not quite enough. The Banelings are going to be done. The Hellions are pretty badly bruised.
But I feel like their kiting potential might be a little bit too much right here for Maru, especially with the creep spread too dismal. Now, that is a nice catch there for SHIN to the center of the map. He did get 2 Cyclones and a reinforcing Marine with this pair of Lings. And if he gets set up for some kind of surround, there is a play that could be made. But this battle mech style coming out of Maru can be so hard to deal with.
All right, we've got the Liberator coming around the corner here to hit some of these drones. You know, SHIN did basically fend Maru off, right? He's got 5 bases. He's looking very strong. We don't have a 4th yet for Maru. He's just going to sit back and continue to power up. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a much better game for SHIN than anything we saw before. This seems like just a much healthier position. The Cyclones didn't really get much done. They were scary, but they didn't, wipe out bases, didn't really kill off many queens.
Ooh.
A really great Ling run by.
And there's no wall at the top of the natural ramp either, so Sumeski is going to get taken down here in the natural, and a full scout in the main base there for SHIN as he confirms mech, double armory, 2 more factories in production, gets 4 SCVs for his trouble. All in all, a pretty good scout, and he's playing with complete information from here on out. And just as you said, Tasteless, the initial push with Hellions, with Cyclones, it didn't get too much done. I feel like a lot of that was because that surround on the Hellions, although it only killed 1 of them, about 4 more Hellions were very badly bruised, and you kind of need them to tank for you a little bit if you want to commit, if you want to dive on creep, because otherwise the risk of getting surrounded by Lings coming on the flank, it could be game-ending if you take too much damage. So that forced Maru to be a little bit more timid. And as it is right now, SHIN is macroing up pretty happily at home. He's already on 4 hatcheries. He's taking base number 5 and number 6 at the 86 drones, so his economy is almost completely online. And it seems like he should have all the tools at his disposal to try and deal with this mech army composition in the best way he sees fit.
Yeah, a nice little Baneling bust over here coming towards these SCVs. This is a slower game. The build-up, it really died out quite fast. We've got, now this is him probably trying to get rid of some supply with the Hellions. Obviously, if you can kill drones, great, go for it. Vehicle 1-1 about to finish up. I'm starting to wonder if really the long-term game plan for Maru is going to be to just let the Zerg take their half and Maru slowly takes his. Because SHIN is huge right now. Yeah. He's on 6 bases. He could even take the 12 o'clock base if he wanted to. It wouldn't be easy, but I mean, he's got a lot of reach.
I feel like if it's going to go down that path, now is the time to take one of these middle bases, whether at 12 o'clock or at 6 o'clock, because any mining you can get from that while you have map control is mining that Terran cannot get from it later. If eventually it goes into a split map scenario, but for now it seems like SHIN, his eyes are more on dismantling this Terran army before it reaches that point. I think even from the position that SHIN is in right now, you do not want to go into an exhaust game against Maru, who is going to go into Ghost Mech inevitably with full-on 3-3 mech upgrades. That is a very scary proposition for a Zerg.
Another scan comes down here. He's looking for an opening. Like, where can he hit? What can he do? We've got Thors coming. Upgrades continuing to pump. 3 more command centers in the mail here, as we're going to see Maru reach into the bottom part of the map and fill in the spots that are rightfully his. I do feel like both 12 and 6, I know they're not exactly 12 and 6, but you know what I mean, top and bottom in the middle. Not that easy for Terran to take either of those. It feels like it's maybe a little bit more Zergs than Terrans.
I feel like that's an end game base to take.
Yeah.
Once you have basically creeped through the map of command centers and planetaries as SHIN comes through, gets a lot of tank pickoffs, and actually the connections here on the Cyclones with the Banelings have been really clutch. That Thor gets yoinked as well. Roju's going to push forward, take that one out, and Maru just suddenly dropped a ton of army supply.
Nice harpooning here, takes those Cyclones out, no problem.
That might be enough. If Shin's able to remax here, I think he can find some really big damage. The army for Maru on the field right now, what you see on screen is basically what you get. There are 4 siege tanks, 2 ghosts, 1 Thor, and not much else.
Okay, he's going to lean in. He's going to Bane up. He's going to Ravager up. He's going to try to hit that spot again. With the one we just saw attacked, he could hit this one down here as well. Meanwhile, 12 o'clock's getting filled in. I feel like Shin is playing the game of his life. I also do feel like Maru didn't really set himself up for success right here.
Yeah, getting caught out of position like that could be devastating. It could decide the fate of this game, as Shin does not look like he wants to waste this opportunity. He's setting up, trying to position his army to come in from 2 different sides. Vipers looking for their targets. Nice EMP though by the Ghost. Only 1 Viper with full energy. Here comes Shin on both sides. Bailey's coming in, connecting on the Hellbats, going into the mineral line. The Planetary is taking a ton of damage. Maru's down at 130 supply. The Thor has fallen. I think Shin might be breaking him.
I think this game is probably over. I don't imagine the other mech units like tanks and everything are going to be able to get over here and defend these other spots in time. He's putting a little bit of pressure over there on that base on the right. We've got a couple tanks coming down to try to help out. We also see that Shin is going to go down into the bottom right. I think the Planetary drives him away there as well. But again, that supply really does tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, look at Shin's bank too. He's remaxing with Banelings, which is one of the most supply-efficient ways of remaxing. It's very expensive to do this, but it packs a lot of punch. And he still has 3K plus resources in the bank. More SCVs for Maru are going to fall. He's losing another mining base. Oh, I didn't even see this. The triangle third. 13 SCVs in total get taken out.
Yeah, I think this next attack is going to kill him off too.
And even if it doesn't, I mean, the bank here for Shin, he is so huge right now. He can just keep going.
All right, here we go. He's going to come in again. Banes are going to connect. This Planetary cannot be saved in time. It's going to fall. This is going to put Maru on 3 bases with only, I think, 1 fully mining.
Maru's trying his best to micro back through these choke points, and to his credit, he is able to stave off death for now. I feel like he's living on borrowed time. That clock is ticking down. Maru almost to 100 supply to Shin's 200, as the next rematch is going to pack such a big punch here for the Zerg.
Yeah, I mean, Shin's got this. Maru died. Maru, you know, getting a little creative. I like it, but I don't know if we can see him play like this in the next game. I think a player like Shin is able to basically parry what is happening here. There's that base being taken I was talking about in the bottom right. I think we're going to see another big resource dump into mass Banelings. And, you know, there's less and less targets to hit for Shin, but there's also less and less supply here for Maru. So, you know, in some of these games, you'd think it might be easier for the Terran because there's only 1 spot to defend, but he doesn't even have the defensive assets to probably cover the last space that he's got. So, I mean, this should be a pretty easy alley-oop here for Shin.
A lot of the supply is in Roaches, so it's not the most supply-efficient army, but still, with these Ravagers, with these Infestors, there's a big chance that Shin's just able to break this game open right now. Maru's doing everything in his power to try and survive. He's got siege tanks on the high ground, and he's desperately clinging to getting that siege tank count up. That's what he's prioritizing. He's gone from, I think, 2 all the way up to double digits to 10. He's producing them 2 at a time. And I think he's hoping that somehow Shin is going to misplay, fumble an engagement, the siege tanks and the Ghost will carry it, and he can equalize. Let's see if that happens. More Biles coming down to the command center. He almost has enough Ravagers to 2-shot that thing. Oh my goodness!
What an ending! This is insane. He actually does end up killing off all those Infestors. Maybe not quite the ending we thought.
That was actually really anticlimactic.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man, what a highlight reel play.
And then kills it all. You got to be careful when you're Shin right now. I think everybody who's played you know, this game on any level has had that moment where, like, you get a little bit careless and you attack it a couple times. You're like, oh no, it's we're back into an actual fight again.
It's a heart-sinking moment. I mean, Maru, the supplies kind of don't tell the full story because Maru actually is ahead right now in army supply after that last engagement, and Shin's army is 29 plus Roaches. So I'm a little bit concerned now that if Maru is able to stabilize and reach max, even on a low SCV count with that 4th base, especially with rallies like this, Shin throwing away a couple more units here. I mean, yes, Shin's bank is huge, but I don't think Roach is the composition you use to actually break this position open. I think you need more.
I don't know, man. I mean, you know, Ravagers, you can try to pick the tanks from there. The Roaches, I feel like, are not very useful in this moment.
Especially against like an almost pure siege tank defense. It is 16 siege tanks and 6 ghosts. That is the majority of Maru's army right now. And
when you don't have that many workers, you can fill that supply up with a big army. Again, I think Zerg will trade anything for anything at this point in time. But the fact that the Terran got the 3 o'clock base is pretty big.
Yeah, this is scary, though. I mean, Maru's basically gearing up for a death push right now, and if he can catch Shin before Shin is able to remax on the ideal composition to defeat this army, there is a world that Maru is able to turn this around despite being completely hamstringed in the mid-game.
Well, it's kind of crazy. He just doesn't have the right tools here. You see tanks going the long way, all the way around the bottom. He's going to be able to hit 2 bases at once.
Maru was on the verge of death for minutes.
I mean, he has to be able to break this, right? He has so many minerals and gas.
The thing is, he only has 100 army supply available because his drone count is so high. And all right, engagement's now coming in. Broodlord's here on the high ground. Solaris is one of these maps with a lot of dead airspace where you're able to utilize the Broodlords quite well. So Viking counts will be necessary here for Maru to actually break up positions like this one, which is so hard to breach with Thors and Ghosts on the low ground.
Okay, he's going to back up. I mean, I got to say, you know, never count Maru out. We've got the Vikings here, though.
Oh, armor shredding missile, and the Broodlords are taking a ton of damage right now. The Vikings, there's no anti-air to stop the Vikings from melting these broods.
Are you serious? One of these broods is so low, he just barely transfuses it in time. It does eventually fall. The push is going to keep coming forward.
Oh, this is insane. 12 Ultralisks right now in production here for Shin.
The Broodlords are all going to fall. There's the Ultras out now. The spread is pretty good. I mean, the Ultra count's not that high. They're not all grouped up, you know, together here. So you can kind of pick them off individually. The tanks are staying alive. Now here come the real grouping of Ultras.
Oh no, the Ultras get caught on the ramp. The siege tank splash damage is so huge right now. Maru's army supply is falling, but are the Ultras going to be enough? They're so low on HP.
Yeah, pretty good targeting here from Maru. Things are thinning out. It's 155 to 121. Terran's still continuing to grow. There's an attack over at 9 o'clock that we're not really following, but I think a lot of workers have fallen over there. There it is.
Oh, this is insane. Shin right now has literally 3 larvae. So what you see right here, until the next round of macro comes in, it's what you get, but it might just barely be enough to break this position.
The other thing is that Maru doesn't know that, but yeah, I think you might be right. If it's what, like 45 army supply here, it's Vikings landing versus Ling Ultra. But you know, anything that you hemorrhage here is going to be gone forever. I don't know why you'd burrow there.
Oh, this is crazy.
Yeah, he doesn't have queens.
Maru was on death's door.
He's a StarCraft 1 Zerg right now. He does not have any larva injects.
Oh, you're right. He literally has no queens. 70 drones to 43 SCVs. This position is really hard to breach. We'll see. Shin's coming in, trying to do it. Roach is pushing up.
If he's going to do it, he's going to do it right now. It looks like the Ultra is still in the game. The Vikings land like a Heart of the Swarm trailer.
The Roaches are able to get on top of the siege tank, and this might just barely be enough.
Dude,
but
what
my
a game.
goodness, did Maru make a show of it. He was on death's door for minutes, and he still almost brought Shin to heal. That was insane.
And you know that Shin knows, like, I barely won that. I barely won that. Like, that's almost a win that doesn't feel good. It's a win that feels like a loss.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah. You know, you want to have these clean games. You play perfectly from A to Z. You close it out. He had no queens. He was a StarCraft 1 Zerg at the end. Just a few larvae at each hatch.
Oh, you can see him just kind of shaking his head and laughing right now because that was just absurd.
I cannot believe that game we just saw. But hey, it's tied up 1-1. Let's see what Maru's got, man. I mean, you know, a lot of that game, the ending was crazy, but a lot of it was what happened in the mid-game and the kind of tech that Maru tried to develop on. Very, very unorthodox. We have also seen, you know, when Maru gets evened out, what does he do? Look at the third game against Su. He's got some much more decisive stuff he can bring out. I would imagine he's pocketing a lot of his mainstream play for the later part of the tournament. We're going to go into Site Delta for Map 3 and continue this series of Shin versus Maru.
the bottom right, the blue Zerg tied 1-1 with Maru. It is SHIN. Top left, the greatest Terran player of all time. It is Maru. The winner of this game is going on to the round of 8.
That's right. Well, let's see what Maru does. I mean, maybe SHIN does something very crazy, but I'm really going to be looking at this game from Maru's perspective. Now, I think Maru is still supposed to win this easily, but he's getting really out there with the stuff he's trying out.
Yeah, that was not an expected build from Maru there in game number 2. I mean, going mech in and of itself, I can see Maru playing mech. He plays mech really well. He's one of the better meching players in Korea, or in the world, frankly, in my opinion, when it comes to TVZ. But just kind of the brand of mech that he played, which was battle mech, but not necessarily very committed. And then he tried to transition into something a little bit more macro without getting damage done. It doesn't really play to his strengths, in my opinion. It's kind of like what you said. It's out there. And Ragnarok absolutely made him pay for it.
There's a reason why some unit comps are more common than others. And, I mean, Maru is really bending my reality of how this matchup can work almost every time I cast him playing. But that was a little bit too abstract. And it didn't really do much of anything to the Zerg. Weirdly, Maru got almost better when he had almost lost the game. And he was forced to try to do whatever he could to fight back. He almost came across the map with that push. Had the Ultras not done enough damage and the Roaches not just been there as kind of an additive, maybe we would have already been going into the losers match today. But he does manage to close it out. So this game, it's fairly passive. It's Reaper with a command center and a factory behind it.
And I think there in game number 2, SHIN played. He played as if the game was already in the bag, which, I mean, frankly, on paper, it kind of was.
Right.
Where he just did basically a Roach Max and was like, I'm so far ahead, my macro is just going to carry me, and I can A-move this to victory. But Maru is not one of those players that you try to make that happen against. And so I wonder exactly what SHIN's approach is going to be here in game number 3 on Site Delta. I'm thinking back to Maru versus Su in the first series of today, where Su was able to play a really effective style of, you know, Ling, Bane, Hydra, which is much more popular in the current meta than it was in the previous patch, of course, with the balance changes that came through some month ago. And Maru did seem a little bit out of his element against that. He got decapitated in a way that we don't typically see Maru die in.
Right.
And SHIN, of course, I guarantee he was watching that match and taking notes. And now that he's here on Site Delta, we might see something a little bit more akin to what we saw Su do there in game number 2.
Well, I'm waiting for the second factory or more barracks. That's what I want to see. Are you really going to, when it's really down to this, are you going to mech more or are you not? Keep in mind, this is not as long of a tournament as it was before, which means you can really, if you package wins correctly, you reveal very little. I mean, this has always been the fascinating part about Star Leagues, you know, from the early days going on into today, is it's a tournament that, in this case, is weekly now instead of bi-weekly. But, you know, people can look at these games, they can study them, they can try to figure out the nuances, the flaws in your play, and come back and basically counter you. But speaking of this, we got some add-on juggling here.
Yeah.
Let's see if he actually lifts again once it's gone. No, he sticks to it. So, you know, if you're Maru, it is important to get out of this group fast with this final game and not reveal 2, possibly even 3 more TVZ builds if you can.
That's a really good point. He really has showed his hand, but also you have to consider now that it is a weekly format, every Thursday here, 6:30 p.m., the GSL, you have a lot more time to actually prepare builds.
True.
Compared to before, we're going to be extending the season by a number of weeks because of that. And so what you show necessarily here is Maru in the opening day of GSL might not be the kind of TVZ that we see from him later in the tournament, because he does have enough time to workshop it and change his game plan. So it is kind of an interesting dynamic in a tournament that is already the most preparation-based tournament in the world to further extend the time that players have to prepare in between matches, you know?
So it's mech.
Yeah, once again.
Mech once more. Third command center. I mean, he wants to make this work. This is really interesting.
Fourth command center.
Secretly, yeah, he's doing it again.
Wow.
So, you know, I really, honestly, I didn't want to call it ahead of time, but I was really confident he would not do this, and he's doing it. So this is interesting. Now, in that case, look, I think this is a more realistic game here for Shin. I think Shin has had a better handle on this.
Oh, we have a very early Spire coming in from Shin.
I think it's smart.
Yeah, already on 6 gases as well.
Maybe some Muta play coming up.
Yeah, we typically don't see Mutalisk that often in this matchup anymore, but against a mech player that's mostly just making Cyclones and Hellions, if they get caught, if they get caught unprepared, as that scan is going to see the Spire. In fact, they're at the natural. So engineering bait immediately thrown down there by Maru.
Yeah,
he knows
scout.
he needs turrets.
Huge scout there from him. Nicely done. So, I mean, we're going to have a lot of development on both sides. I think had this been a surprise Spire, it could have really punished Maru, but you only need to spot that Spire once to have the defenses that are basically going to permanently keep you in a safe spot in this game.
And I feel like basically his response to that is, actually, hold a second. Oh, nice surround there by Shin. He's going to get all these Hellions. He's got a good number of them at least.
Oh my God.
That was a fantastic catch. If he was a fraction of a second later with those Lings off creep, he would have not gotten these, but instead every single Hellion can get cleaned up.
What?
Oh, well,
leave
maybe not
one,
this one.
Leave one to send a message back home.
It's like a Hellion's brave. I would not be driving back to the Lings if I was him.
You killed my friend.
Mars, like, you forgot this.
Okay.
Battle scarred, 13 kill Hellion.
Give him veterancy.
Yeah. He should just get Blue Flame as a bonus.
That's right.
He deserves it.
That's the hero unit. Okay, so he's going to come out with that same comp, only a little bit more squishy because the Hellions were just picked off.
And by the way, this is just so smart. So Shin, he tries going for fast Muta. It gets scanned by Maru. As soon as the Spire gets scanned by Maru, Shin throws down an Infestation Pit in the main base because he's like, I'm going to change the game plan a little bit here. And then Maru scans the natural again and confirms the Hive. So Maru really on point with his scouting, and Shin coming in now with the Mutas just before these turrets are done.
Yeah, literally, like seconds before it's done. He's going to be doing a lot more damage here. The Cyclones will come up, that'll drive the Mutas out, and only then can Maru get those turrets up.
Yeah, those Cyclones not quite as good as they used to be at chasing down the Mutas. Of course, they don't have that insane 12 or 13 leash range or whatever it used to be that they had in patches before, but still very useful in terms of DPS as Shin is going to rotate around, trying to find more damage. Does get one more SCV, but not much more than that as these turrets finally will get constructed here, and both players really gearing up in the upgrades. 1-1 vehicle weapons and plating here for Maru as Missile Tech and Ground Carapace complete here for Shin.
Yeah, I mean, the fourth bases can't really be interrupted. So economically, Terran's going to develop in a really healthy way. Also, Maru landed those command centers really fast. Some games you keep the command center pocketed and just keep making SCVs and landing mules, but he's really developing. You can see those resources pouring in as there's just a plethora of infrastructure here mech-wise. In the main, this is not the craziest biggest map. There are not a lot of expansions in the middle either, but whichever way Zerg grows, Terran can go meet him there.
Yeah, this map, at least in my experience playing on it, it feels kind of strange because it feels like it's relatively small at the beginning when you have to take the third base, either the triangle or down in the linear expansion, because it feels so vulnerable and like the rush distance isn't that far. But if it does go into the late game, there are actually so many expansions and so many choke points that you could throw down things like planetary fortresses or command centers. It starts to feel a lot bigger.
Interesting.
So we'll see exactly how that plays in for Maru, but oh my goodness, it's like, what, 5 siege tanks immediately getting taken out?
Oh my God, it's just 2 more tanks in the back over here. He's going to try to reinforce with what he can. He's got some Cyclones in the front. It seems like the Cyclones might be enough to cut it.
Yeah, I mean, those Cyclones really unleashing a ton of DPS, but the Mutas in the main base, there's no turrets to parry these. 17 SCVs get taken out, and Shin right now is maxed to 130 supply. Maru, whose siege tank count got basically reset. I mean, was there a turret in the main base that we missed and maybe Maru's gonna repair or something? I don't even know what happened here. That is insane.
I mean, we're starting to get into a game where Terran is looking very flimsy.
I mean, Maru, he still is at 74 SCVs. He has a ton of workers, but this is not the position he necessarily wants to be in.
He's sending the Vipers back, so we're gonna have another round of tank harpooning.
Army right now for Maru is almost pure Cyclone siege tank. He's adding more Hellbats and Vikings into the mix, but The numbers as it is right now, very small, and as you said, the Vipers, once again, full on energy going to come in, immediately abduct these 2 siege tanks here at the front. The Vikings will pick one of them out.
I mean, he's getting real value here. That's basically every factory with an add-on. You know, the tank that came out of it was killed.
Yeah, in total, that's 9 or 10 siege tanks that have gone down in the past couple of minutes.
And in some ways, the tank is kind of the mech unit that's going to let you get wins long term. He's going to go for Corruptors here, too.
And I like this. And we can find a cost-efficient way of trading these roaches out. I think that will segue into a good transition here for SHIN. But as it is right now, yes, he does have a bank, but in terms of map control, the creep spread isn't as spectacular as it could be. He's not expanding to the far reaches of the map. It feels like SHIN is almost committed to trying to keep Maru on 4 bases and go for a kill move before he can take a 5th command center. But Maru is so tenacious, I'm not sure if that game plan is going to work. Thors are added into production now, more Vikings underway, and the Brûleur transition coming through, but Maru almost already has the answer. It's about to be a lot of Vikings on the field.
Yeah. We're at that phase of the game where the Brûleurs do come out. Kind of sloppy there with the roaches. He's going to drive that away. This is a very exposed position. I just see a planetary. Not much else. You can always go behind the minerals and just not have to deal with the planetary at all. So he's just going to do that with the 3 roaches, just put him back here. He knows that Terran's going to come down and clean this up, but at least stop the mining for the time being. You know, mech is not a nimble composition, so it does take a while to get everything back over there.
Nah, it's like Terran playing Protoss, basically.
Yeah.
Except they win more games. Sorry, I had to get a jab in there somewhere. All right, Broodlords now coming across the map with a ton of Queens and Overlords also to absorb some of the Vikings, so that will add a little bit more of a micro tax here on Maru. I like that quite a lot, because this does kind of jumble up the shift targeting here. Let's see what SHIN's able to get done. Engagement beginning. Vikings first targets on the Overlords, eventually are able to get some shots in on Corruptors and on the Broodlords, but they go a little bit too far forward.
Yeah, the Corruptors don't feel like as good of an idea when you realize they can't really get in there and actually engage the Vikings at that distance, especially with the Thors over there.
I mean, the ground is getting cleaned up a little bit. I think there are enough Corruptors on the field to kill the Vikings, but there's just no Broodlords left. There's only one.
Yeah, it's funny, he wins the ground fight. And now these Corruptors are going to get dragged in through here. These Thors can kill them off. The Hydras are not going to be that much of a threat. He's going to try to inch in here and just kill off this one Broodlord.
Kind of a bizarrely even engagement with the way that one went. Yeah. I was expecting one player to come up a little bit more on top than they did. And SHIN, yes, he is going to be able to remax, but exactly what is he remaxing on? Because I'm a little concerned for his odds if the follow-up attack does not get too much done. Oh, you're kidding me.
That's actually really bad.
I didn't even play-by-play it because I thought I wasn't going to die.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, well, he's going to land a mule or do something or lift it off and move it. I don't know. He's not going to let that go all the way down.
So the remax from SHIN, it's just ground. It's roaches, it's hydras. He has a couple more Vipers on the field. And it seems like his game plan now is to try and overwhelm this force for Maru. Let's see if he can do it. Blinding Clouds are huge to start this one out. Oh, that's a ton of Lings rotating in. There isn't a lot of AoE damage here for Maru to try and clean that up. Roaches and Hydras on top of the Siege Tanks and Thors. Maru losing a huge chunk of his army.
I mean, this is insane, man. I think that Maru might end up falling over here. I don't see a whole lot to reinforce, just a couple ghosts as the Roaches and the Hydras continue to push in.
One more Thor there is going to try and hold on the defense, taking a ton of the damage here from the Roaches so that there could be more DPS coming in from the Ghosts, but I don't know if Maru is actually able to hold on. I think barely by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah,
he'll be able to defend, but the rematch from SHIN, he still has 2,000 resources in the bank.
Well, you know, the crazy thing, too, is there's nothing else protecting these tanks. I mean, how many tanks have we lost in this game? The Roaches can come in here and pick this off, and then all these positions are going to be so flimsy for Terran.
Yeah, there isn't even a single planetary on this right side of Terran's base. Roaches now coming in. This base has to get evacuated. That's going to further damage Maru's mining economy right now as he is really starved for resources.
He's just going Roach Hydra. I don't think he has to do anything fancy.
Yeah, there's only 3 siege tanks.
Yeah, I mean, just max out. More Roach, more Hydra, come in, bust him down again. I think you can close this out. He's going to go for Ravagers, and of course that's a great way. With a few tanks, you're going to be guaranteed to kill all the tanks.
Absolutely.
This is wild.
Viper's getting added into the mix too. If he can combine Fungal with Biles on those Ghosts, that would just be the cherry on top, but not even waiting for the Infestors, just pushing in. Those Siege Tanks are getting really good volleys off on those Roaches, though. That was not an efficient trade for SHIN poking in. Getting a little bit of a flashback to the previous game with him just trying to headbutt through positions with large numbers of Roaches in it, not working in his favor. Maru has shown in this series that he can come back from position like this one and make it a game.
You know, and let's not forget SHIN. He's been really close to winning, but almost so close to losing, just like the previous game we had. I mean, it wasn't like it was the cleanest victory. It was kind of a nail-biter. It seems like the triangle base is maybe too safe, but hold on. He's going to decide to come in here. He does bungle some of these tanks.
It's a nice Neural right there on the corner. Gets another Siege Tank there with Neural for a moment, but Hellbat's on top of all these units, doing a great job of defending for the Siege Tanks, but I think SHIN might just barely have enough. There are still 5 Ghosts standing here with the snipes, but they don't do a lot of damage to these Roaches and Hydras.
It wasn't the cleanest attack, but it might not have had to be. He's going to come in further here.
There's more Siege Tanks, though, Tasteless. There's always another Siege Tank. I mean, Maru, just by the skin of his teeth, is barely holding on again and again. Right now, he has just a handful of Ghosts, a handful of Siege Tanks, but SHIN, with these army compositions, just can't quite close it out.
This is such an odd game. It's just crazy to me. Now, look, the triangle base is almost mined out. There are these 2 periphery bases. Remember that drones haven't really been killed for a long time. Zerg will mine out. Not on all the bases, but on some of them. Income, when it slows down, can be a momentum builder here for Terran if Terran can get maybe 1 or 2 more bases up.
I like SHIN rotating to the top right side and engaging on this planetary fortress. If he can get it down, that would be huge.
Yeah, and he just smashes this position, no problem. Is Terran overexposed here? You know, we've got some nice shots with the Ghosts. We've got the Siege Tanks doing some damage, but the Ravagers close in on those tanks. This could be GG right here.
Yeah, this might be it. Ravagers continuing to push up, but the Siege Tanks, there's still more out of frame, just continuing to shell. I mean, this is one of the advantages of opening mech is, you know, Siege Tanks, they're already great units for their cost, but once you combine that with +3 vehicle weapons.
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, they pack a wallop. They do way more damage than you might expect, especially against armored units such as Roaches. So I feel like with every subsequent attack, SHIN is getting closer and closer to closing this one out, but if he's not able to break that Ghost Ball soon, I'm not sure he's actually going to be able to close this one with the composition that he's rolling with. Because the Roaches, they are not very supply efficient in fights like this. He has to get something more done. And the snipes are really starting to add up.
Oh my god, the body blocking command center here getting in the way. A completely bungled attack here from SHIN. These are the kind of attacks that are going to allow Maru to sustain where he is. Keep in mind, the very bottom left of the map is pretty much empty. There's lots of bases Terran can still grow into. I mean, we're pretty far away from that moment here, but, you know, let's say this game goes to 30 minutes. That's where we're going to be focusing our attention to. We've got the Baneling's Nest coming down again. Was it killed off?
I don't think he ever made Banelings.
I guess he never really went for Banelings. That's right. We had such a weird mech comp.
Yeah, he's just been playing basically Roach Hydra Ravager this entire time, and that's one of the reasons also why we haven't seen a Viper on the field in what feels like minutes, because his army composition is already so gas intensive. He's throwing all of that gas into Roaches and then into Ravagers, and so far it hasn't really been working. This base, Maru says it's not even worth defending. He's just going to allow this one to fall. It's mostly mined out.
Yeah, it makes sense. He is going to send some units up here, though, to try to get some snipes.
Yeah, I mean, take any damage you can here as Maru. I mean, the tenacity of Maru to stay in this game, similar to game number 2, and barely survive push after push.
This is so crazy.
It's absurd.
So he's going to kill this off. Keep in mind, the most mineral-rich bases should be in the top right, and there's one near the bottom center. Not quite to the bottom, but close. But, you know, Terran's starting to catch up in supply. Terran can start to really reach on the map.
I mean, the army supply is almost favoring Maru here with SHIN running a mostly Roach composition. That is not what you want here as Zerg. Now, a nice abduct will get another Siege Tank. Blinding Cloud is clutch as well, but again, the Ghost count, it's barely ever diminishing. I feel like it's only growing. In some of these engagements, SHIN might be picking off 1, maybe 2 Ghosts, but it is not enough to stop this ball from accumulating. And
I mean, this is the moment of truth. He's going to come out. He's going to try and basically make a wedge in between this position here and everything north of it so that Zerg can be killed off. We've got the attack coming in. The Ghosts are very bunched up. The Bane's gonna come in.
Speed.
Oh god, yeah, Baneling speed is brutal. He kills all it off.
I mean, if he had Baneling speed, I think he gets a handful of Ghosts there, but the fact that he transitioned to Baneling so late means he just doesn't have it. Now this Hellbat wreaking havoc over here on the right side, and this isn't the only base. There's another base at the top right that Shin is mining from. This is a huge portion of his economy.
And we're just seeing a primitive tech here from Shin. I mean, it's Ling Bane now. Dude, I think Maru might have done it. We got to see the next couple of attacks. Again, all you need is a couple of Banelings to hit all targets. He does have medevac, so he can scoop this up if he wants. He's going to get most of that out of there. He's going to get the hatchery as well. And he relocates to this base down here. This is insane.
All right, Shin now pushing in. Oh, the EMP gets both Vipers, so no energy to be found on them. Ghost gonna try and kite away from everything right here as the Siege Tank's doing massive damage to the Roaches. Shin, he's trying to chase down the Ghost, but they're just too fast. He can't get on top of him. Finally now taking a couple down, but is it gonna be enough? Is that cost efficient enough for Zerg?
It's just Roaches out here right now. Terran's at 120 supply. All the tanks are wiped out, but the one that we're seeing be attacked by the Lings, we'll see if that one even gets away right now.
Shin right now, he's making more Lings, getting more Banelings, but again, it's only +1 melee attack right now for these Lings. There isn't too much to be found. Now, this is a great run by this base. Not being a planetary, it's very exposed, so Maru, his economy is pretty much shot as it is right now. Less than 60 workers, and most of his base is mined out. So any disruption that Shin can do will slow down the reinforcements, but I mean, as you said, it's like Shin is trying to break this with basically caveman tech. Occasionally we have a couple of Vipers getting mixed in, but for the most part this entire game, it's been Roaches, it's been Ravagers, it's been a couple Hydras, it's been a couple Banelings.
We got to note that, the Zerg has grown into the bottom left, so it's not like these are the only bases he's got. Now, of course, Terran will happily relocate their expansions to this base here now. Another maxed out army, another opportunity. Tanks maybe a little overexposed in this position.
That Shin now going to try and come in. Nice Gliding Cloud, able to disable the only Siege Tanks that were in position over there. As Maru's going to rotate over here to the top side. This is a little bit of a choke point. With Siege Tank staggered, there might be something Maru can get done, especially with Snipe.
Yeah, there's just enough beefy units to get in the way. The counter push is going to come in towards the top right. I mean, Maru is still in this game. We don't have, any action in the bottom. But, Shin can just, fill in the gaps wherever he can, basically. We've got a lot more tanks coming forward here. The Roaches, I don't think that they should be this far out. I don't think they can easily retreat either.
I think Shin just feels like he has to defend this base here at the top right. He can't allow Maru to take this down because he can't allow Maru to secure this base for himself. That's the real issue. And, all right, some Lings getting on top of the Ghost. There is Cloak on some of them. I don't know if Shin's gonna be able to take them down. Link Blood coming in. There are medevacs though to lift up, and there's no anti-air to be found. It can't be anything to really take down these medevacs. No Hydras to yoink them into. I mean, the army supply you see on screen right here for Shin is most of it. And the Roaches are gonna get on top of these Siege Tanks, but at the end of the day, the Ghost just, once again, coming in from this side might be enough with Snipe to clean this up.
I mean, Maru is so low on supply. I feel like he's the only player who could possibly be in a game this long and maybe make it work.
Shin has literally 0 gas income. He's taking extractors and he's mining from none of them right now. He only has minerals, which means he can only make Lings. And his Lings only have +1 attack. And Tasteless goes to bonus damage versus Lings. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this for Shin at all.
Now, of course, Maru doesn't know that. So he might assume that there's the bare minimum, but yeah, you're right. I mean, like a few Hellbats, they'll just melt this.
It's pure Ling against 3/3 Hellbats with Blue Flames and Ghost. This is not going to go well for Shin.
God. I have never quite cast a game like this. I have never quite seen this. Look at this. He's getting gas, in 10s right now, ticking up. That's not enough.
I don't think there's any path forward for Shin. Maru has weathered the impossible storm.
I cannot believe this. Look at the spread. He's got so many Ghosts, too, and there's enough tanks. And the Hellbats, really, I mean, that's all you need against this many Zerglings.
The Hellbats alone could win this fight.
Yeah.
Wow, what a game from Maru.
Dude, I cannot believe that. I cannot believe it.
What a win.
I cannot believe it.
And
oh my God.
In not the fashion we expected, Maru is going to advance in first place from Group A into the round of 8.
What?
But that was unbelievable. I thought he was dead multiple times in Game 2, in Game 3, in Game 2. He almost clawed his way back, and in Game 3 he did.
Dude, I'm glad you caught that the moment that you did. It's like, yeah, he actually doesn't have gas. He only has links because he neglected his own extractors. He was too busy defending. A haunting loss here for SHIN.
I'm at a loss for words. I mean, I can't believe that Maru was able to hold on from that position.
That's wild. We're going to go to an interview now with Maru and see how he's feeling. Our first quarterfinalist, Maru, congratulations. Thank you. What a weird series today. That very last game against Match, it was so many critical moments there where you managed to pull through, and it was such an unusual victory. Yes, I thought I was going to lose that match. I tried to just hang on and sustain and be patient, and it worked out.
오늘 하루 괜찮겠다는 생각을 했을 것 같기도 한데 이 올저그의 조에 대한 오늘 경기 이전의 평가와 경기를 다 해보고 나니까 평가가 혹시 바뀌었나요?
원래 조지명식 하고 나서는
Your opinions before the matchup and after the matchup versus SHIN.
다 잘하는 선수들이
During the group nominations,
어려웠던 것 같아요.
I thought I should just make it to the quarterfinals very easily, but since the journey I had to have today, it was much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. You played 3 games in a row. Sorry, Mech 3 times in a row against SHIN. Was that on purpose? Was that premeditated? And if so, why? Whenever I play against SHIN, I have a hard time if I play bio, so I'm trying something different here today, and it worked.
조성주전의 그 상황에서 막 이런 느낌들을 좀 받았었거든요.
We had a lot of back and forth moments during the cast, trying to figure out who was going to win that.
그런 건 아니었는데.
It seems like your micro even. We're not warm. It seems like your control wasn't warmed up. I just expected very different timings coming into that game, so I wasn't really prepared for some of these moments that he attacked me. Anything else you want to say before we close this interview out? I could have played better today, so I think there was a lot of moments I fumbled. I'll try to do better next time. Thank you for cheering for me. Cool.
Man, what a series.
All right, guys, up next, Sue versus DRG. We'll be going to that after this short break.
W's only, may you know me, that's victory. Can't control me, you should know me, I want victory. W's only, may you know me, that's victory. You can't control me, cause I came for the... Yeah, I was down and out for the count, did it come around a minute, a while. All of my ups sitting on the block, figure like, man, we figured it out. Never knew God was with him, and now when I walk in, they give me a smile. That's what you do when you got the B&B, so go in and give me your crowd. Talking to a grown up, old me, but a new me, sure I glowed up, never fold up. Heartbroken apart from me and my work ethic never broke up. Yeah, I said it in the start, man, I want the victory. I don't care what you say, you cannot get to me. It won't put no end to me. W's only, may you know me, that's victory. Can't control me, you should know me, I want victory. W's only, may you know me, that's victory. You can't control me, cause I came for the victory. Yeah, 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 I came for the victory. 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 Yeah, I came for the and I can't, bet you I do it again. Follow the plan, fam. Look at the hands, never gonna lose in the end. Young boy, preach, I'm moving advance. Look at me teach, I'm doing a dance. I need a lift, I'm taking the stairs up, and I'm choosing my faith over fear. Look at the man in the mirror, I can see clearer still. They came here to tear me down, I'm here to repair and build. I came for the dub, not what it was that you wanna hear the thrill. Shields up, never yield up, but spill guts, don't dare be chill. I came for the victim.
We're back. It's time for the losers match. It's time to eliminate somebody from the GSL. We've got two Zergs. Sue and DRG is where this match is going to go. The winner will go up against SHIN. SHIN did look pretty phenomenal against DRG. It was kind of an unusual series. There were some real misplays there from DRG. If I had to guess going into this, just based off what we saw here in Group A, I'd say Sue looks stronger. What do you think?
Wow. That's a bold prediction. I mean, DRG, we were talking about this at the beginning of the show. He does kind of feel like a wild card. You don't know if he's going to be in top form, if he's going to show up and make his way to the quarterfinals. You don't know if he's going to be the first player out of the group. And from what we saw against SHIN, I'm right there with you. It was pretty shaky, but those series happened, and I find it hard to call between these two because on paper, DRG absolutely favored against Sue. Sue's really been struggling since he came back from military service, but that first series Sue played against Maru was so impressive I think I might be with you, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm basing it off of. It's like right now he looks on point. You can hang with Maru, you can hang with anybody. DRG did not look impressive. Shin just kind of ran circles around him. Interesting ZVZs, no doubt. We're going to load up game number 1 and get our losers match underway. Su versus DRG starting now. Okay, Su in the top right, DRG in the bottom left.
Man, you are efficient.
Getting it out of the way. That's who's who. Okay. Very quick hatchery on the low ground here for DRG.
Yeah, 15
Obviously, you know, we're always looking for when the pool is going to come down. That kind of signals to us what potential the early game could have as far as attacks.
Yeah, DRG, it seems like he's opting for one of the more safer openers here in ZVZ. 15 hatch, 15 pool. Gets your Lings and your first 2 queens out about as fast as possible. One of the trending safe openers, and it makes sense to me to have that approach here against Su, because I feel like DRG probably considers himself the better player, that he should not lose to Su. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he just tried to play a little bit of a tighter, safer game, especially in the early game. I mean, later on, anyone can be aggressive. Of course, it's the way ZVZ goes, but I don't think DRG wants to get shaken up quite the same way he did in his first series against Shin, because that was kind of a disaster, especially in game number 2.
It was bad for sure. I don't think the ZVZ is going to be as long as some other ZVZs, too. Su has always been very good at kind of closing ZVZs out. I think he's very strong in the mid game and has good openings in the early game. DRG as well. I mean, he makes a lot of pretty sharp tech choices.
Right, both players macroing up. Similar builds right now. No one's been able to start Zergling speed just yet. Su will have a slight edge on that, maybe 15, 20 seconds faster than DRG, and that's more or less a choice there by DRG, as he saturated his gas quite slowly there, focusing on the minerals, so certainly looks to be a bit more defensive here in the early game than his opponent. And Su might be able to leverage having a faster speed into this third hatchery. And my question is whether DRG is going to continue to try and mirror this and go for a third hatch of his own, or if he's more content to just kind of sit on 2 bases and play it very, very safe.
We also saw this kind of faking play on 2 bases where there's like Ling all-ins coming. Oh, yeah, it doesn't quite get the block.
That was cute, though.
But this like, you know, red herring wall-in where they'll start the wall in, but they're making Lings behind that. I don't know if we're going to have it here today, but it's been fun to see them try that out.
Sure, we'll see Shin do it again. whichever
well,
player
Layer
gets the
starts,
privilege.
Layer.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Su did not scout it.
20 Lings.
Oh, wow.
From Su. So
with the Baneling nest as well. Yeah, this is going to be very aggressive. Roach Warren only just now coming down for DRG. That might be a little bit too late.
This is, oh God, he's getting 2 gases. So he's like trying to get into that air tech. This is a big opening. I mean, it's a 2-queen opening, but you know, you can crack that open pretty fast. Both queens are going to be eating a lot of damage. You don't really have the kind of surface area edge. He can try to full plug it up, or he can, I guess, make kind of a hallway setup.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he didn't build even more Evolution Chambers behind this, because the Baneling bus is coming in right now. Oh, the Evolution Chamber instantly gets taken out by the Baneling. Surround on both queens. Transfuse is not going to be enough as they both get taken out. And it's just drones and queens here for DRG.
Yeah, I mean, the drones can do what they can to hang on, but their numbers are dropping so fast, and that's going to be it. GG. Su takes game 1. Wow. That's a change of pace from those Maru games.
Yeah, how many of those games can you pack into game 3 of Maru versus Shin? Oh, man, DRG is looking a little bit shaken up today.
Well, he's just not able to get a good read in the early game. I mean, there's something to be said when you just die to Lings at the start of each game. He did I mean, obviously, you know, the tech that he had planned out was to go, you know, into the layer tech, probably get mutas. We've seen him do that a lot to great success. But, yeah, I mean, the Baneling setup was perfect. It detonated in such a way where it wasn't really about the Banelings killing drones or Lings. It was killing those buildings that were morphing in that don't have that much HP, because the Lings around can take care of the rest. We're going to go into game 2 now on site Delta.
Su played that so smart too. He just sent 4 speedlings forward to make it look like he wasn't going for the all-in.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that turn to the Banelings. And as soon as they hatch, that's when the main wave hits. I mean, that's a brilliantly executed build. If Su has some more tricks up his sleeve like that, he might be able to take down DRG and go into the final match. Let's get ready to go to game number 2 on site Delta.
Say it with me. Doodle up. Song! This is a song, man.
I gotta pay more attention.
Okay, game 2. Doodle up. You guys know the words. Sing it along with me, everybody. We got Su at the I'm sorry, Su in the top left. DRG in the bottom right. Doodle up. So
that can't be the lyrics.
Oh, I don't know what the word is. It does sound like
saying doodle up.
Doodle up.
All right, both players opening 16 hatch this time. No 15 hatch, 15 pool.
Mirrored builds here. Of course, we can see aggression later on. ZVZ's been pretty explosive as of late.
Yeah, it's hard to call, really, what kind of opening you're going to see from a player. Based on the scouting information, like Su there going for that fast third hatch, it could be for macro play, it could be a feign, it could just be for extra larva for a Ling flood, as we saw. It's tough to make reads. It's one of the reasons why ZVZ is a matchup that is so volatile, even at the pro level. Is, I mean, one of the hardest things to do in this matchup is play a safe macro game and outplay your opponent doing that, because you don't know whether they're cutting corners and being greedy. You don't know whether they're going for all-ins exactly to try and kill you. And it's one of the reasons why, I mean, Solar, for a while now, in my opinion, has had the best ZVZ. You watch him play games, and he does some tomfoolery. Like, he will go for the craziest all-ins. They look like they aren't reliable. They don't make sense. But he's able to play his cards in such a fashion that you truly don't know what to expect in any given game. And so for Su in this series to open up in game number 1 with a build like that one, I think that's really smart, not even just to win the map, but to win the set, to kind of get under DRG's skin, especially after the first series with SHIN, where DRG lost in a very similar way.
Yeah, Solar, you know, he'll do macro builds or just one base crazy all-ins. He's also very good post all-in, if the game didn't end, playing it out correctly, which is its own skill in of itself.
So mirrored, even the double Lings are meeting in the middle at the same time. Both players going for the triple hatch as well. 32 supply. This is like, it's like playing Mario Kart or one of those racing games where like you're trying to race your ghost and like beat your personal best. Even the Ling movement's identical.
Yeah.
Bailing timings.
Now that Ling's going to shoot a turtle shell out and take out those ones chasing him.
Even the Bailing nests are going around at just about the same time. This is about as mirrored as it gets, down to the larva.
It is kind of nice when you get really mirrored builds, like in every possible way, to see, okay, when does the deviation come in? Pretty even with drones and Lings here.
Yeah, DRG is droning up a little bit more than his opponent, and Su, it seems like he's once again gearing up for aggression. I'm sure this time that third base is going to be a big target.
Yeah, you know, there are disadvantages when you're on 3 bases to 2. 2, you can at least like hunker down and try to barricade yourself in with Evo Chambers and Queens. With 3, it gets tricky. You could try to hit that third base if that creates an opening over at the natural. You can run in there. So it's a real balancing act for the other player.
DRG already has some Banelings morphed in here at the third base, and he's pulling the Queens out, so he should be okay in the defense against these Lings. Just one Baneling out right now for Su, but the Roach Warren is here. So there's a chance. Oh, no, you can't get back on creep. The Banelings, though.
Oh, man.
Able to push him away.
A little dicey here for Su. He's not really able to get much done yet. We have the Roach Warren coming down here to further blockade the entrance.
And I think this is really smart coming in with these roaches, because if DRG is anticipating a full-on Ling attack, he has the right response. He has the Banelings, he has the Lings, he can defend. But Su, even before this attack commenced, was already preparing for the Roach follow-up. This is the real killing blow that he is going for, and DRG only just now seeing these Roaches pop is going to have wind of this. Is Roach Warren a little bit more delayed? He's throwing down Spine Crawlers in the natural expansion.
That's interesting. So I don't think he's confident with his third base. The placement of that Spine Crawler, you know. Will he just sack it and try to, you know, walk this this setup back? I don't know.
He's only making 5 Roaches. Su already has more than that right now on the map. Oh, he can get in the way of his queen. Oh, no way. He's able to body block with the Lings. It can't get back on the green.
Yeah, it can't get there. That little spot in between, he can't get into cover. The Lings are going to spill through again. I can't talk. They're going to spill through again. He gets the kill on both of those. I think that may be game against State.
He's even on top of the Spine Crawler. All the drones are going down. Roaches are popping right now out of the natural hatchery, and more reinforcements coming from the main, but it feels like the damage is already done. Su just continuing to reinforce with this position. The drones are getting pulled. 5 have fallen, and Su still has more Roaches. I don't know if there's going to be enough reinforcements. That might just be it.
No, this game's over. I don't think there's any recovery from this. The queen falls again. That's going to be a GG. Su speed running his way through the losers match, and that's going to be it for DRG. Coming up next, Su versus SHIN.
Wow. This entire series was faster than Game 3 of Maru.
Oh, I know. I feel like we barely got to wrap our heads around ZVZ. I'm still wondering if Maru's going to have to mech this time and have an inefficient push in the mid-game only to win later on. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We're in the other match after that.
Su versus SHIN is going to be coming up next. Another ZVZ. Well, both these players have been really aggressive today, and for DRG, honestly, a heartbreaking way to go out. 3 of those losses, all to relatively similar all-ins. I feel like basically none of those games got past, what, the 5 or 6 or 7 minute mark? Just over in a flash. That hurts.
That was something else, man. Okay. Well, that's that, guys. I don't know. If you make units and they don't, man, you know how it ends, right? Up next, guys, SHIN vs. Su. We'll be right back after the short break.
Go ahead and take all your winnings, but one thing that you got to know, this is only the beginning. You never know where you may go, so hold on to the highs while you're alright, cause you know you're gonna come down, just a matter of time, and you will find everything comes back around, comes back around, comes back around, back around, comes back around, comes back around. So hold on to the highs while you're alright, cause you know you're gonna come down, just a matter of time, and you will find everything comes back around. So hold on to the highs while you're alright, cause you know you're gonna come down, just a matter of time, and you will find everything comes back around, comes back around, comes back around, back around, comes back around, comes back around.
my heart is drowned. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Where did I go? Since I was a child, been rising from the ashes. Look at me now, scared to even grasp it. I am fighting all of my pain. I won't let it show. But I will roar, my spirit's reborn. The eternal flame, it calls it shaking my core. And it's gonna get loud, can't believe what is not true. How could I ever doubt you? I am here, but I can't forget. I was born to rise. Oh, 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 walking through fire, unseen desire, do I dare to tap in? Tales of old, stories are told. What am I contemplating? I would do it all again. No take backs. My oldest friend is fear. Whoa, but I will roar. My spirit's reborn. The eternal flame, it calls it shaking my core. And it's gonna get loud. Can't believe what is not true. How could I ever doubt you? I am here, but I can't forget. I was born to rise. Oh, 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 but I will soar. My spirit's reborn. The eternal flame calls it shaking my core. And it's gonna get loud. Can't believe what is not true. How could I ever doubt you? I am here, but I can't forget. I was born to rise.
Welcome back, everybody. The GSL continues on. We have our final match. It's another ZVZ. One player will live to the round of 8. The other is out. And we'll have to wait till Season 2 if they can prove themselves there.
Yeah, and both Shin and Su have shown some really good games so far today. Su almost defeating Maru, had some fantastic matches in Game 1 and Game 2 of their series. Shin also came so close in that final map. And then ZVZ against GRG. I mean, I don't want to be mean, but they both kind of steamrolled it with early aggression.
I mean, we don't really know where Shin or even Su are at in like mid-game or late-game ZVZ. We don't know if they even want to play that. These were really some of the fastest ZVZs ever, like back-to-back. Normally you get like one short game and then, you know, 1 or 2 long games, something a little bit more dramatic, but maybe this is kind of the way the Korean scene is viewing the matchup right now. We're going to go to Oceanborn here for map number 1. Again, I feel like Shin should be slightly favored. He has been performing better in Korea, outside of Korea, as a competitor. But, you know, on any given day, I think Su, if he can bring it back, if he can dial into that Su from the past, maybe he can take it here now.
I mean, what a great comeback story it would be for Su to finally break back into the top 8 of a GSL after missing it for so long. We're going to find out who's going to advance to the final match. Shin versus Su. Let's go to Oceanborn.
Okay, Shin in the bottom right, Sue in the top left. Let's see. I mean, are we going to have these mass lane games? You know, it's funny. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a meta game in the, you know, the small world of Korea where everybody just knows DRG is maybe too greedy, maybe too cavalier in the early game and will just die to a Ling Rush. Other times it can be like, no, this is really, you know, the way people are approaching this right now.
I think it might be more of the latter than the former if I were to take a bet, because, I mean, just going back to the discussion we had about Solar ZBZ earlier on in the day, I mean, when he played ZBZ, he was beating, frankly, everybody. He was even beating Serral. He was by far the best ZBZ player in the world, still might be right now. And many of his games look like the ones that we just watched. There were a lot of all-ins, a lot of very cheesy plays. Occasionally he would mix it up with something more defensive, more macro, but I feel like in a matchup as volatile as ZBZ, if you're the one going for the aggression, it's a lot easier to play from a position where your aggression does some damage but doesn't end the game than it is to be like DRG in this situation and try and just barely hang on against an onslaught of attacks. So it does sort of feel like the Korean ZBZ meta is shifting more into this aggressive play, and frankly, I think it's better. The games are really exciting. I wish they were a little bit longer maybe, but...
Yeah, you wish maybe they wouldn't all die to the aggression like they have today. Yeah, let's see where we go here. But both of these guys kind of playing similarly, at least against DRG. But, you know, ZVZ, it is generally speaking, it's a good matchup. There's a lot of different ways you can tech into it. It does have a very dicey early game. Obviously, Banelings are devastating. Zerglings are so fast and slippery. You really have to have everything etched out perfectly if you're going to navigate that early game as well.
I think it might be my favorite mirror matchup, just because...
Is that right?
There's, like, if you think about a PvP, sometimes people just get build order countered, and it's really lame. And I mean, that I see sometimes, but that happens more often than you would think in a PvP, right? Or 2 Adept Shade into the main base, and suddenly it's over. But in ZVZ, it's usually very simple. It's very low tech, especially in the early game. And there's so much micro, there's so much scouting that matters. And it feels like the game's on a knife's edge all the time.
Yeah.
Which I just love. As a spectator, as a caster, I love it. I'm sure if I played Zerg, I would hate it, but I don't, so I can enjoy it.
Yeah, I think my favorite mirror matchup might be TVT, actually.
TVT's another good one.
TVT is nice. I think there's a lot of cool different builds that can be played. I think it's, I guess, you know, coming from, you know, the old days of StarCraft 1, I think it's an improvement on StarCraft 1 TVT, so. But yeah, I mean, I think generally the mirror matchup's better in StarCraft 2 than StarCraft 1.
TVT feels a lot like chess.
Yeah,
I never was very good at chess, so.
We've got the missile attack upgrade here for Sue. And we have the same thing happening just a few seconds later for Shin. So, one player's taking a third base, the other's not. Shin is growing on the map. We did see Sue try to go for, or no, I'm sorry, it was Shin that, no, I'm sorry, it was DRG that went for layer tech. What am I talking about? So that doesn't matter at all this game. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, Sue in this one is opting for 2 base layer, getting Roach speed, and neither player has Zergling speed, so just all about the Roaches here in this map on Ocean board, and Shin isn't going to be too far behind him, maybe half a minute or so on Roach speed. But the fact that Sue is 2-basing this and Shin is 3-basing this makes me a little bit concerned. I mean, of course, there's naturally going to be a defender's advantage because Sue has to move across the map to get anything done, but...
Yeah, you know, he's going to have his third base later, but is there a chance that he can hit with some kind of a timing here? Gas being taken at that third base as well for Shin, which means, you know, it's an even more so important target to keep. There's a lot more Roaches being made. I don't see any drones coming out on either side. It is 50 workers to 41, so Shin is going to have quite a bit less. It's 24 army supply to 42. More Roaches are going to come down.
I think a lot of this is going to come down to the defender's advantage, and in fact, I'm a little bit surprised that Sue isn't moving out on the map already. I would expect that you, as the 2-basing Zerg against the 3-basing Zerg, would want to hit as soon as speed and +1 are done, and I guess that is going to be the timing. It's 10 seconds to go to +1. That's going to be right around when he meets Shin and Shin's side of the base. No spine crawlers, so it's pure Roach versus Roach. here we go.
Okay, he's going to come down. There's going to be a little bit of dancing over here between these two areas. Shin leans in. Did he do it a little bit too fast here? The arc is really nice. The Queen's on the side here, though, doing a little bit of extra damage. We've got the Queen coming down right now for Su as well to try to reinforce the damage that's going to come in here. It does feel like maybe just barely Shin has enough.
I think he does. The defender's advantage coupled with a Queen's might be enough just to repel this attack here by Su. Upgrades are completely mirrored, and Su, yeah, you might have had more army on the board, but it wasn't all in Shin's base. And that was a pretty clean defense there by Shin.
There was just Queen. I don't know what was going on with this one Queen in the back of the fight, like hitting an Overlord. But it didn't seem to be like a very well-timed out attack. Did you see how many Queens were killed there for Shin? I actually did not.
I think he might have lost one, if any.
Okay.
I knew they were taking damage, but I didn't see too many go down. He's sitting on 2 Queens right now.
So he's going to be fine on his injects then. But, you know, is this going to be a seesaw moment where Shin can just come right across the map and try to strike? The third base is obviously going to be the target. We've got the Roaches coming up right now. It's 75 supply to 55. Even with reinforcements staggered behind, I think that there might be enough muscle here for Shin to try to plow through this, and that's exactly what he's going to try to do.
Yeah, able to dodge that bile shot. Only one Roach gets hit. He's instantly on. The Roaches, the Queens, the drones are getting cold. I think Shin might just have too much right now. Dodging the bile again, immaculately. Bile coming down. Su is able to avoid that one, but so much economic damage done.
Yeah, a lot of drones were dropped there. Another bile. This one actually connects onto its target, softening the position here. Shin may have to back up. I'm still not used to calling him Shin, by the way. But, you know, that was a lot of losses that happened over there. The Roaches are going to reconfigure. They're going to meet back up over here. But I would say a little victory there for Shin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Su was able to repel the attack, but he lost a lot of drones. He only just now repopulated those, so that's an extra, 30 seconds that Shin had maybe 10 more drones mining, and still on the board. It's 62 army supply now, 66 to the 40 of Su.
Yeah, I mean, the drones that were killed off, it was a lot. We can actually see a spread of Overlords coming out here. He may be doing a creep highway drop that's going to allow him to fast lane this into his opponent's base.
I like the contaminant there on the +2. That is the one thing Su has going for him, is his +2 is miles ahead of Shin's, but given the army supplies, I'm wondering if that's going to be enough, because Shin might just have too much. He immediately pounces on, picks off 2 Ravagers, gets 3, able to get the 4th one as well. Some very expensive losses, and now the reinforcements come in. It's a perfect surround.
That was crazy. Came in there right for the Shins, took out all of those Ravagers, and this is going to be game. I mean, Shin with a beautiful display of skill comes through, crushes this base. GG, Shin takes game number 1. And is that much closer to getting into that round of 8.
Yeah, 1 map win away now, and man, that was a brilliant final attack right there. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Moves forward with the first wave of Roaches, gets all of the Ravagers, and then when the reinforcements come in, it's a sandwich, complete sandwich.
Really interesting to see him just slide through with the quad kill on the Ravagers. He's like, you don't have the surface area to protect this. And as long as I don't have to, play dodgeball with your corrosive vials, I've got this. Again, Su with a failed push. Queen's kind of in weird spots. Didn't seem like even if the Queen was with the army, that would have worked. I mean, there's a lot of problems there.
Yeah, I feel like Su was a little bit at a disadvantage there because they went for such mirrored builds, and Shin was just defending on 3 bases versus the 2-base aggression. So we'll see what happens here in set number 2. Hard-led Shin is only 1 map win away from going to the round of 8. Can Su fight back and force a game 3?
We're going to find out. Game 2 starting now in our final match in Group A. Or maybe not. So bad. Maybe the second to last one. Where's my bias? All right, guys. Anyways, game 2, let's do this.
Bottom right.
Not so
doing
fast.
it too fast.
Calm down.
I saw the game for a moment, and then they come in with a graphic, and then it leaves again. Still got the hang of this. And now Shin's not even on screen. It's blown.
No, this is chaos.
I'm not going to tell you guys. Now you have to figure out for yourself who is
the
who.
Group over. Shin bottom right, Su top left. Very fast CVZs today.
Yeah, really quick. That was the longest one we've seen, I think.
I know.
That was still a short one, but Mirrored builds once again. I think both players, if I'm not mistaken, last game also opened 16 hatch. So
yeah,
it's a little surprising after they both just absolutely pummeled DRG with Ling to then go into going hatch first in a Roaches like this. Neither player got Ling speed that last game. They both just beelined into layers and Roaches.
Yeah, just Roach v. Roach. Things maintaining the mirror. Extractors and gases lined up. So now we wait. We can't really, you know, guess. It would be purely guessing to try to figure out who does what next. But we basically want to see, is it drones? Is it Lings? Is it more tech? You know, is it more gases? Is it Roach Warren? What's it going to be?
Now, oftentimes I think about mirror matchups, and I think a PvP is having the latest breaking point where once the cybernetics core is done, that's when you get to see exactly how the builds are going to deviate.
Yeah.
But going back to the previous game, there were up to 3 hatches and multiple Lings, and everything was still perfectly mirrored.
Yeah, it was totally the same thing.
And it's the same story here again in game 2. So clearly Shin and Su have a very good read on what they want to do. Clearly this is something of an established meta in terms of hatch first play. So if you're a Zerg player watching from home, struggling in ZBZ, this game and the previous one, probably a great one to get your build from, considering these players are both relying on it so heavily here and so mirrored in the way they execute. I mean, it's got to be solid.
So here we have it. Drones. There's a little bit of a different ordering. It looks like actually Su does get his Overlord earlier. And, you know, it's going to be Shin that pops the drones out a little bit later. There's the third hatchery. So the question is, does anybody spike up in Link production, or does it stay a slower game with drones continuing to produce? Baneling Nest.
It's completely mirrored.
Yep.
We even have the same 2 Lings.
Yeah, now we have to make the same Mario Kart joke from before.
It's like Groundhog's Day, man. It's going to keep living through this CBZ until something other than a Roach All-In happens.
This perfectly to end it.
Oh, we're going to be here for a long time. I am not
with our
Artosis.
CBZ knowledge, yeah. Okay.
So Baneling Nest confirmed on both sides, so both players are aware that it's a mirrored build, and
Shin spikes it up to 8, but then there's a mirrored 8. It's going to be a mirrored 10. I feel like you go up to 8, you're probably going to have to go up to 10, right? Are we going to have that for Su?
We'll see. It seems like he is going to try and eke out a couple more drones. Shin right now is sitting at 31 to the 29 of Su. A couple of Banelings getting added in. This is not necessarily the way that it played out previously.
Yeah, it's been slower for sure, which is fine. Roach Warren here, coming down. These Lings are going to be headed southbound. With the Baneling out, you know, well, let's just see how this interaction actually goes. He's going to try to dive in. You don't want to overextend with your own Banelings.
Yeah, 2 Banelings can one-shot another Bane, so both players are just kind of testing the waters, trying to find the best connection there. Ooh, Shin actually on an attack command there with that Baneling, so does get wasted a little bit, loses it to 1 Ling.
So it's Evo to Roach Warren here. Was there a Roach Warren made? I'm sorry, I missed this with Su. Did he just start it, or is
Su
it done?
just started it, I believe,
okay.
And Shin's just finished.
So Shin might have a pretty sharp timing.
Yeah, it's reminding me a little bit of the game that I believe Su played with DRG earlier. Perhaps that was Shin. They're all bleeding together, but a fast Roach Warren follow-up after some mild Ling Baneling pressure can catch your opponent off guard. So if Su doesn't catch wind of this very quickly, there is some tremendous kill potential from Shin, because the Roaches, they're going to nullify any Banelings that Su might make, or if not nullify them, then severely diminish their value, and Su knows it. He sees the Roaches moving across the map. He's throwing down 2 Spine Crawlers, and he has 5 more drones as well, so slower on the aggressive tech. Later Roach Warren, and a little bit more greedy. Shin's coming in. Do the game-winning blow to set him into the round of 8.
Now the Roaches need to snipe the Banelings here as he comes in. The Banelings need to hit the Lings. Every unit has a different role right now. Notice how he morphs a Ravager Cocoon right before the Roach will die, so it can get a health reset, just like we saw there. The Queen goes down. The Banes are still on the loose.
Oh, Baneling still in third base. Some nice micro there by Su to pull away. Going for the Lings to come back and retreat. And Su actually doing a pretty remarkable hold given the position that he was in. He's able to defuse those 2 Banelings for just a couple of Lings. Gets the surround on the Ravager and the Roaches.
I feel like Su's doing a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, Shin is already abandoning ship. He's going for a lair. He's adding in more drones. The rush is over, so Su able to parry an attack that DRG failed to earlier on.
He might try to set up a Link counterattack. I don't think it's going to work. I think that would be the kind of obvious move to go for here. Well, I mean, okay, he is going to try to come up. There's actually no Banelings over here, so hold on. This changes everything. I imagine there would be a Baneling or two down here, but here we are. The Spine Crawler falls. The Roaches fall. There are still no Banes here. The Lings are going to run into the main.
And with some drone drilling on these minerals, Su should be able to defend pretty well. No drilling, so he will lose a couple of them. 3 in total going, oh, actually 6. Is he going to get another one? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Shin is pretty crafty. It goes to show you what literally one Baneling would change that engagement.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why Shin didn't go into the main base or the natural earlier, was because if there was that one Baneling, then suddenly it's all for naught.
Yeah.
So he goes to get the guaranteed damage, he kills the Spine Crawler, he kills a number of units, takes the favorable fight, and only with the leftovers does he go for the drone kills, and I mean, that's making the best out of a bad situation right there for Shin. As it is now, after Su's remarkable hold, I mean, Shin with a successful counterattack, or follow-up attack, I guess I should say, able to bring himself back into the game. We're almost even on workers. We're even on army supply. Both players now on lair tech. The board's been reset.
Yeah, the story continues on. We've got a lot of extractors coming down here with a nice scout. His teching is going to, you know, start to ramp up here. As far as drones go, it's virtually the same here. We've got a couple more drones hatching on each side. More roaches being produced for now for Su.
Which are still in range. He's trying to find the sweet spot.
Yeah. It's like, which
I don't
piece
even
of garbage do I stay over?
I don't think there is one.
I think there's not for that spot, but it's funny to watch him try to find it. Okay, so, you know, especially after these really explosive fights, things can quiet down. Oh. There it is, the Spire. I was going to say, we need to see what the next tech is. Are they going to stay on ground or not? So Su is not teching into Spire, but Shin is.
Yeah, and Su is going to spot this pretty much immediately.
Okay, big scout. There's always a couple different ideas at play here. Like, do you actually abandon this? Like, not cancel, but just, you know, leave it open, but then maybe hope they're going to go for more anti-air. This does prompt a poke from Su, because if they are going to go for mutas, you'll have less roaches and ravagers when this attack arrives.
Yeah, and Shin knows that too, so he stopped making for mutalisks and immediately started pumping out more roaches, but the Ravager count is non-existent here for Shin. It's pure roach, so he's going to have to rely on numbers in the concave and essentially scoop forward and try and take this fight successfully. Better concave right now for Shin. Su maybe a little bit over-eager. I like the numbers here for Shin, and that's a great surround, but
whoa,
are
this
the
is like
enough? No.
Yeah. Well, this just seems almost like a foolish move here. I get the idea, but like, man, Shin just had so much more. Here he is. Shin coming in here, taking the Ravagers out. You know, it's interesting. We don't always see people dive on the Ravagers, but he seems to really have a good handle on this. And then he lets the reinforcements kind of sandwich the units that he surpassed over there.
Yeah, it's a really nice move in these low Ravager count situations. I mean, Shin's been showing some great micro, but now finally Su reinforcing here in the middle is going to be able to deflect this.
Can he get a kill on the hatchery?
I think almost certainly right. No, that's a lot of roaches.
Yeah.
Hold that thought there, Tasteless.
Oh, roaches come. Well, for some reason, they're dropping in from above.
Yeah, Su is just taking too much damage, I feel like. This attack isn't going to be successful because Shin, in addition to the roaches, is making 7 mutas. It's not just roaches.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, there were a lot of roaches picked off when he was running away.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Shin was able to go toe-to-toe, roach versus roach, while still banking the 700 minerals and 700 gas to come out with these mutas is insane. It's just a testament to how good his control was in that fight.
So he's going to dampen the vision on the map here. He can take out all of these overlords. Now you don't know where the roaches are coming from. It makes it a lot scarier to move out of your base. A counterattack from the side is going to be a real problem. I was curious if he might try to like come up and go for workers, but this makes a lot more sense, especially in a roach versus roach fight. Woach, sorry, I got Elmer Fudd voice over here. Missile attack gets done right now. And look, he can try to come in here and basically do a drive-by on these drones. Just take out whatever he can.
That's a lot of now I'm doing it. There's a lot of vulnerable drones there in the main base gas, so even more going down. And I mean, the roach ball for Shin is just so clutch. He is constantly catching Su out of position, and Su even kind of going for a little bit of a flank here, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. It is a nice concave he's working himself into, but the numbers are just so in favor of Shin.
Yeah, Shin just seems to have a really good handle on how to handle, you know, how to approach the ZVZ in a game like this one we're seeing here. He's doing so much damage to these additional roaches, and I think from here we can have a big battering ram attack from Shin. He's going to come up. He's got a lot more Ravagers, which is going to make the roaches here of Su have to dance and dodge while additional damage is distributed over here.
The army value is just ballooned here for Shin as he's continuing to press forward. Is slowly getting picked up by the Queens, but it doesn't matter. The army on the ground is just so strong. Su's army supply is still dwindling. A couple more roaches in production, but I think the fourth base is pretty much broken.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be game. I think Shin's done it. He's going to be our survivor here for Group A. This has been crazy. And, I mean, I got to say, a well-deserved win. We talked about who had the best ZVZ here today. Clearly, it's him. He's shown a real range of play. The roaches are continuing to reinforce. We're seeing a few of the remaining roaches here for Su come out. He is getting a bit of a surround, but as each other roach comes in here, you know eventually these drones are going to be falling.
Even if Su's able to come through with a miracle hold right now, it is, I mean, he's 10 workers behind. And Shin, once he reinforces with everything and +2 ranged weapons is complete, I feel like that's just going to be the killing blow. That fourth base was under damage for so long that the next attack is going to be the nail in the coffin.
I think so. 95 army supply to 60 here. Plenty more Ravagers to come in here to make the damage a little bit more complex. He's going to move in now. This is not the easiest angle to come into here, but yeah, he's going to be able to come in onto the side of the hatchery. He's got these biles that come down here, so there's really no way to buy time. Another dive in here. He likes to do this to his opponent's Ravagers. It seems like that might have been a misstep, but either way, the hatchery is just a few shots away from going down. He'll be able to back up. We're not really showing much of it on camera, but there is a fourth base that's fairly high saturated over here for Shin as well. So now it's 3 base versus 4.
I mean, you can just see the mineral income on bottom. It's, what, 600 or 700 more minerals fluctuating there for Shin over Su, and the army supplies just really tell the story. Defender's advantage working in Su's favor for now, but eventually Shin is going to be able to breach the front and book his ticket into the round of 8. Su put on a valiant fight today against Maru. Now here against Shin, but it's not going to be enough.
I mean, it's just, you know, as time passes, you could see the numbers diminish. Su in more and more hot water. I think the writing is on the wall. GG, Shin takes it 2-0, and that's going to be how we close out Group A.
A well-deserved win there for Shin, and man, you're going to tell he was really feeling the pressure. Big sigh of relief.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be happy for him. He had some weird, crazy games versus Maru. Maru obviously escapes into the round of 8 first, but Shin is right behind him, and deservedly so. He did have a much better handle on ZVZ, whether it was Ling rushes, you know, these counterattacks from that, or this kind of crazy play we saw where he used those mutas to clean up the map.
And really the micro coming through from Shin, both in Game 1 and Game 2.
Yeah.
Moving forward with small sections of roaches just to basically one-shot stray Ravagers, and then equalize with reinforcements and just get a complete surround on the opponent was so clutch. And that was the reason why I think in game number 2, or a large part at least, why he was able to defeat that army and still have enough resources to make 7 mutas on top of everything else. That shouldn't happen in Roach versus Roach, but somehow Shin made it work.
Yeah, you love to see it. So many dominant Zerg players out here. We had a great ZVZ group. It was fun to see how action-packed it really was, but you know, Shin's got a very good handle. A reminder for everybody, Shin, that is Ragnarok. He did change his ID. I know we got a lot of people that, you know, solely follow GSL, so I feel like if I say it once, people tune in late, they go, who is this Shin guy? It is going to be Ragnarok. We're going to go to that interview now.
정말 고생했습니다. 오늘 축하드려요. 축하드립니다. 네.
Congratulations, thank you.
아니 승자전에서 먼저 갈 뻔했었는데 다 잡았었잖아요. 사실상 끝난 경기라고 보는 분들 많이 계셨는데.
In the winners match, you were almost able to make it.
지고 난 이후에 좀 어지러지했을 것 같은데요.
We thought you were going to get out first versus Maru. What was going through your mind in those moments?
에서도 그렇고 사이트 데이터에서도 그렇고 제가 다 잡은 경기를 갑자기 딱 잡았다고 생각을 하니까 집중력이 확 풀려가지고
I thought for a second I almost have this.
했던 것 같아요. 그래서
But whenever I feel that moment of confidence, I feel like I can't quite concentrate if I think I've already won. So
좀 다양하게 해보자 이렇게 생각을 했어야 되는데 그런 생각을 못 하고 그냥 다시 또 하다 보니까
I felt that in map 2,
똑같은 결과가
and when I went into the third map, I tried to collect myself and pull it together, and not think about having already won, but just focus on the game at hand.
뭐 압도적인 차이로 밀리고 있습니다. 오늘 경기에서는 사실상 뭐 지긴 했습니다만 그래도
It did happen to me on the third map as well.
이게 뻔했잖아요. 뭐 자신감을 좀 얻었을
In
것
terms of
같은데
gameplay,
사실 인간 상성이긴 한데
you've had a lot of development.
게임할 때 제가 뭐 주눅 들거나 그런 건 전혀 없고 그냥 뭔가 점점
Whenever I have a matchup offline, I don't feel fear or anxiety, no matter who I'm playing.
아마 또 만나면은 오늘 같은 이제
I feel like in skill-wise and my own personal ability, I think I've had massive improvements. Even versus Maru, I didn't necessarily think I was going to lose versus him.
그래도
If you meet Maru in the finals in a best of 7, what would your predictions be then? Be tough, but I would say 4-3. Obviously, me winning. You changed your name from Ragnarok to SHIN. Did that change your mentality? When I lost against Maru in the finals, my family was there watching. So many fans came to support me. It was overwhelming. Obviously, losing that was a big disappointment. So that was a big reality check for me. So after that, I guess his family didn't remember his ID, so he decided, since Ragnarok is hard to remember for Koreans, he changed it back to SHIN. Well, not back to SHIN, he changed it to SHIN, excuse me. Before we close the interview, any words to your fans? After changing my ID to SHIN, I had a hard time preparing in the 3 months for my games. I felt like this was also confusing for overseas fans. Who's SHIN? But I feel satisfied. I feel like it's been transformative for me, and it's helped me perform.
제가 GSL 준우승하고 그다음에 이제 IM 4강 가고 이제 거기서부터 기대를 많이 하셨을 분들.
It's also nice to show my name, my new self to the fans.
작년에 제가 너무 못해가지고 스스로도
Last season I played terribly.
근데 이제 올라갈 일만 남았으니까 많이 응원해 주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
Since I felt like I was in the bottom, in the slums, I just needed to climb out of that. So here I am. Well, congratulations again. Thank you. Cool.
Yeah, fun day.
It is a problem when you change your ID. It is a branding issue.
Yeah, I'm sure even after this, a lot of people are going to be confused.
I think it's going to be, weeks.
In the round of 8, who is SHIN?
Who is that?
Well, Maru and SHIN advancing in first and second place out of the group today, but really an action-packed one. Maru versus Sue, closer than you might think if you tuned in late and you kind of wrote that one off because Sue has not been in good form. Highly recommend you go back and watch it. Sue showed some of his best ZBT since he came back from the military service. I think he has a lot more potential to show good results this year. For DRG, a bit of a heartbreak, but Maru and SHIN clearly the best players today.
Yeah, for sure. The better players move on. Look, it was exciting as well to see, the games that Sue brought. DRG, kind of a bummer, to be honest. We're going to be back next Thursday. It's Dark, Stats, Classic, and Bunny. I have the week off that week. I'll be out of town. We'll be joined with Gemini, casting with State. I'm excited to see you guys together.
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
I'm going to miss you, but at least we have another Protoss player.
That's right.
Who wouldn't cast with
we
the Terran?
No, we don't cast with any more Terrans. That's all done. This is a Protoss show now, guys.
Yeah, that's going to be a very fun group. I'm especially excited to see how Dark, Stats, and Classic are going to play because Bunny, I mean, he's always rock solid. Dark, I feel like he's somehow underrated right now. There's a lot of talk online about people saying like who's the best StarCraft players of all time, and I feel like Dark he deserves to be on that list.
Yeah,
he's one of the best players in my opinion. I love Dark. He's my favorite Zerg player to watch, frankly. With
he's
how creative
phenomenal.
he is.
I actually did an interview with him on my YouTube. You guys can check out as well. Now that he's joined Team Talon. So every Friday at 5:30 p.m. ticket sales start for next week. So tomorrow, 5:30. Buy the tickets. I don't think it's going to fill up here in our studio for the round of 16.
Yeah, round of 16, even the round of 8, you can usually get a couple of seats if you buy them late. But
the further along it gets, like every day that passes, more and more people come in here. As we get later on in the tournament, you really should try to buy a ticket ahead of time. We do have people that visit the country or come up from different parts of Korea and can't get in. And, you know, with the GSL days reduced overall, it means more people try to make it out, which means less room overall.
That's right. And, of course, GSL...
Life is truly a zero-sum game here at the GSL.
And, of course, GSL is only on Thursdays now. It is no longer Tuesdays, Thursdays.
Right.
So we will be back next Thursday, not
So we're
next
going to be
Tuesday.
moving at a little bit of a slower pace, but we're going to be on for longer, which I think is kind of nice.
Get to see a little bit more
GSL
prep from these players.
It was a little too short. It was a little weird. We get through like 2 weeks, and we're like, well, we're more than halfway done. So
that is true.
I welcome this. So, yeah, good to be back here with you, State. This was another great day of casting.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I got to say the game is in a fun place. You know, the game always speaks for itself. So,
yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
For a group that had 1 Terran and 3 Zergs, it was about as fun as it could possibly be, man.
Yeah, interesting to see the weird style Maru's bringing out here, and if we're going to see more of that, or if that's kind of him obfuscating the play that he has for later on. That's all the time we have. We love you guys. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye-bye.